right, there we go. Much better. Welcome to the party. All right, so we did all of that. So let's just jump right in. Thank you so much for your patience. What is going on here? Where is my background? Beautiful. There we go. Talk about a struggle stream. Yeah, we just tried. I just tried to do this on a different platform, but wasn't working. So thank you for coming back and welcome to the party. Let's dive in. So let me just, if you didn't see the failed attempt, basically we have obviously Sam Seder of the Majority Report and Sean Fitzgerald from Actual Justice Warrior. And they are getting into it.
No, I believe me. I don't. That you don't need to explain.
Come on, you got to be
explain that to me. That's it happens all the time. Yes, we are here now, and Actual Justice Warrior. How did you come up with that moniker?
So I'm a big believer that any qualifier to like justice tends to invert it and make some kind of injustice. True. At the time that I created the channel, it was when social justice warrior was the term du jour among the right, and I made the name. I kind of regretted it immediately, but I've stuck with it for years because, you know, you got to commit to something.
Thanks.
Yeah. And so economic justice, you don't like that that
Sorry,
terminology
guys, give me a sec.
either?
Give me a sec.
No.
Okay. What's that? All right. All right. Fair enough. Okay. So make your case here about what is the issue you have in terms of me downplaying the significant increase in crime in New York City and nationwide since 2020?
I mean, where to start? How about the fact that, you know, it is really bad and you're not doing anything about it except making excuses?
What? Give me a sense of what you characterize how you perceive my how I've downplayed that and what's problematic about it.
So I've heard this point from Emma and specifically from you on your show in response to the recent uptick in crime, that crime is not as bad as the 1990s, which is true, by the way. Compared to the peak of America, we're significantly down from that mark. However, we've had a giant increase in crime since the Black Lives Matter riots. You can actually trace it in a lot of places to the month of the riots where we had certain criminal justice reforms implemented that I believe are really driving the uptick in crime.
Shout out.
Nationwide, we had a 30% year-over-year increase in the homicide rate. This is the largest increase in American history. The second largest increase in American history is actually 2000 to 2001. And what's significant about that is that's only 20%. And that includes 3,000 people killed in New York City on a single day.
In a single day? That's a lot. That's a lot. Opus is saying violent crime may be down, but theft and robbery and other things that affect average people are up by a lot. Yeah, are a lot more way up. Absolutely. And this is I think this is, you know, where they're going to get into is the typical liberal position of, you know, this is Sean's, but the liberal position of everybody is who's doing this is, you know, poor Aladdin just trying to survive. The same thing that Emma Vigeland tried to do on the culture war. It's not going to work. It is not going to work. Olto says, remember when the whole H3, Sam Seder, Steven Crowder shebang? That was wild. I mean, I don't think it was that wild, but I just thought it was a perfect way to show why people don't like Sam Seder. So if you're not familiar, he's basically been blacklisted from everywhere because he's not a good faith debater. He is one of those people, as you saw with Emma on the culture war. He's one of those people who will get into conversations. Morning, lay down. He will get into conversations to try to clip farm, to make it so that he can do a clip, kind of like, you know, St. Michael with our debate, and clip things up to make it look like a certain thing, because he knows that his audience doesn't listen to anything that is either him or you know, relates to him or is co-signed by him. And, you know, H3, Ethan H3 and Steven Crowder are supposed to have a debate, and I think it was a good conversation to have. But Ethan comes on to Crowder's show, and then he's like, oh, hold on really quick. And he does like a screen share, and he swaps it out. And it's like, oh, here, talk to Sam Seder, which again, you know, of course you're here. And again, it's the fact that you're not there in good faith. You're not there in good faith. If you're trying to have a conversation with me, then have a conversation with me. But the fact that you're going to do some slimy shit like this, well, cursing already in the first 5 minutes. All right. The fact that you're going to do shady stuff like this is exactly why nobody wants to talk to you, whether it's Sam Seder or St. Michael of Cigarillo.
So it's the largest year-over-year increase in American history. New York was actually ahead of that curve. They increased 47% year over year. And to get into the raw numbers for New York City, it went from about 312 homicides. We were in and around 300 murders in the city of New York per year to 489. I think that's a significant increase. I think the argument that it's not as bad as it ever has been is a terrible argument. And I've heard a lot of people repeat this in response to what is a notable increase in crime.
Okay. So I will agree that
that's why I left it up in full when you had to clip it up, right?
2020 and in 2021, we saw increases in crime, certainly year over year, without a doubt. You're neglecting to say that those numbers are now going down. I mean, because when we talk about the most recent,
no, I'm pretty sure he already addressed that it's going down, but only down from the very top of where crime was.
Recent figures, really, those numbers are going down. So we had this peak of crime that was pretty big. Like you say, in 2020 and in 2021, you measured it to the Black Lives Matter protests.
Yes.
I also noticed that during 2020 and 2021, we had a once in a lifetime pandemic that,
Did we though? I mean, yeah, we did, but it really wasn't as bad as you say. It went once in a lifetime. We know.
Also created
Semantic
massive
obfuscation.
Unemployment, that also created massive spike in pedestrian deaths, that also provided massive spike in inflation.
Hey, shout out to Indie Film. Welcome to the party, brother. Good to see ya.
There were all sorts of phenomena and also massive spikes in deaths around that are attributed to the pandemic. But from your perspective, the pandemic this is not a function of the pandemic. These spikes in crime were a function of the Black Lives Matter protests. Do I understand you?
It's really the after effect of the protest. But to be clear,
hey, shout out to Unwanted Foes, starting off the night with a treat for Morty. Thank you. Come, wait, where am I? Over here. There you go. That's right. Every single super chat comes with a treat for Morty. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Thank you. Shout out to Michael. Welcome to the party, Michael. Good to see you. Glad to have you here. Thank you. And big shout out again, Unwanted Foe.
Okay. The after effect. We can talk about the decline.
No, but this is important because what you said is like it's misleading. So crime has declined since the increase in a lot of places from 2020 to 2021, but it's declined in comparison to the increase. Well, so New York, as an example, I love this example.
No.
Yes. As we are about to see, I don't know where he's going to. No. You can clearly see that back in the mid 2000s, crime was here. And then it was going down, and there was a big spike, and now it's gone back down again after COVID. And they're talking about the decrease in crime from here. And Sean's point is like, okay, yeah, it's down from the hellscape that was that era, but that doesn't mean it's back to where the crime levels were before all of that. Hey, shout out to Kerb. Welcome to the party. Says Cedar getting rolled by Sitch and now Sean in the course of 2 days. Oh, I missed that one. I definitely have to check that out. Welcome to the party, Kerb. Good to see you, brother. Lilto says, so is Sam Seder saying that crime isn't a problem in NYC?
Bingo.
Pretty much. No, he's not saying that there's no crime, but he's trying to point out that, hey, crime is getting better. Crime is going down, when in fact, that is misleading. It's not untrue, but that's exactly what Sean is saying, is that's misleading.
Misstating that. It is, I said it decreased year over year at this point.
Yeah. But that's meaningless, because last year was an anomaly. So that's the misleading part. Shout out to Trey. Welcome to the party, brother. Said I used to like channels like Sam, but he started at half-ass doing things. Yup. Hey, Daniel's back. Welcome. And we got David Banner in the building. Welcome, David. Said crime has been going down and down, but let's increase our police budgets 1,000 times so that they are the only ones capable of getting away with it. The police, the police, they're definitely going to get into this, but the police budget's going up is one thing, and definitely, has happened. But as Sean's going to get into, is that a new hire is very different in terms of quality policing than somebody who's been on the force and would have quit through all of this defund the police stuff. Welcome to the party, guys.
Year over year, because you're talking about, you're discounting when the peak of crime in this country or a decade ago.
No, you're doing that.
Or 2 decades ago. And you're using a year over year increase. And I'm saying that we're now in 2023. And I think you wouldn't argue against this.
No,
we have experienced now a year over year decrease. Both
again, he keeps saying year over year, which means I don't want you to look past the last year. Yeah, we're down from last year, but don't pay attention to where we were last year, because the fact that crime was way up here is not good for my point. So let's just talk about the fact that it's gone down since then. Not that there was a huge increase, mainly because of the policies that I push. That would be, too convenient. Oben said he already made him do the seal. I don't even know what that means, but sounds funny. Definitely got to check it out.
Both in New York and nationally in like 5 out of 7 measures of crime. I think in New York, the only crime that has really gone up is car theft. But
that's the only crime that's gone up? Or did he say the only violent crime?
But down compared to what?
Exactly.
Year over year.
Yeah, but pre-2019, we're still up if you compare it
to
the
there's no doubt. In fact, we're also up in inflation, but also, inflation is going down. So I just want to make sure that people understand the dynamic.
But 2023,
and also during 2020 and 2021, we had this huge spike in deaths from COVID, and that's also going down.
From COVID or with COVID?
We still have more deaths from COVID than we had in 2019, but we're talking about a trend in terms of it's going down. And the reason why this is important is because your argument seems to be, and I want to get back to the cause of this spike, according to you, your
liberal policies.
Your argument, as far as I can tell, and what you just said was, because of the Black Lives Matter protests, we had police reforms. You would call them not reforms, but
no, they're reforms.
Things. Okay. Police reforms that created this spike. So to measure whether this spike was a function of police reforms, we would have to believe those reforms have been reversed this year for the crime to go down. Now, I'm going to take issue with even the fact that there were police reforms that caused this, but that's why it's important that we all understand what's going on here in terms of crime. It went up in 2020, it went up in 2021, and now it is starting to go back down. It's still not at the level it was at 2019.
Yeah, that's his point. So you celebrating, oh, crime is down, like a little bit. But so what? It's still up in general.
And I concede that. But it is clearly going back down. You will concede that, yes?
Well, even still, if we're just talking about year over year, you can say it went down. You don't have the information yet to say whether it's going down. We're only talking about last year.
Yes.
Well, yes, depending on the area, but also
you would have
nationally, you would have to use 2022 numbers.
So Lil Toes asked, would you agree this is a big city? Hold on, I gotta get here. Come. No, you don't want to sit? Then stop jumping on me. Lil Toes said, would you agree that this is a big city black culture problem? I don't have a better name for it. So I don't necessarily feel like the black part is necessary. Like every other crime, is most of the crime perpetrated by people who have black skin? Yes. but well, not every other crime, but you know, street level crimes like this. Yes, but I don't feel like that's relevant. So if we just say it's a big city culture problem, then yes. Is it, you know, again, does there happen to be more Black people doing it? Yes, but I don't think that's relevant to what we're actually talking about.
Because the 2023 numbers are incomplete.
Well, yes, but
exactly,
at this point, 6 months in, 7 months in New York, are they up or down from last year over year?
It could very well be true that they're down in comparison.
What do you
to
mean?
The
It could be very well
increase.
true. This is a hard number. These are actual hard. Do you want?
Well,
See, that was a mistake on Sean. He should, yes, but the reason that doesn't matter is XYZ. That's why. Exactly.
NYPD puts out their data at the end of the year, and we're at the summer, and that's usually when the spikes come out.
Sean, take it from June, just the 6 months. Do you really not know those numbers? You know those numbers. If I have those numbers, you have those numbers.
Shout out to Martian Overlord. Welcome to the party. It said major cities have become population control zones rather than bastions of education and labor. Yep, and it certainly seems to be trending to continue in that direction. All right, he's climbing up here. I'm going to see if I can bring the chair over, and maybe, just maybe, I will get my co-host back. Let's see.
Come on.
2023. What crime am I looking at?
Look at the top 7 crimes. I mean, I don't understand how you don't have these numbers. If I could find these numbers, this is not what I do. I don't talk about crime that often. Like you say, I downplay it, as far according to you. And the fact is that crime numbers are down. I mean, people can Google this. Look, here's a story from Patch. Nearly every major crime in New York City dropped.
That's Sam Seder frozen, not the video.
Sharply, new stats show. This is from the ComStat.
Yes, there's a decrease in 2023. And
so David Banner says, I'm not a conspiracy nut, but it's kind of crazy how during these riots, masked plainclothes officers were walking around, stoking the flames. And remember those videos of like the pallet of bricks on the streets delivered the day of the protests? I do. It definitely makes you question, like, why people are not only preparing for this, but seemingly egging it on. And it's because they actually do want to bring the downfall of all of this. They want to, you know, from the ashes, they want their new society to be born.
Homicides are down 3% from June 2023 to last year, June 2023.
See, again, Lotos, I mean, I agree with you. There is more Black people than Asian people or Hispanic people or white people or anybody else doing that. But what about the Black culture is speaking directly to that? And that's a genuine question. You might have an answer, but I just need more than the fact that it's poor people in neighborhoods that are predominantly Black anyway. I'm not I just don't see how that helps the conversation. But if you have a way that it does, please let me know.
Shootings in New York dropped about 25%.
If you tell me what you're looking for, I can go find it.
Okay, well, I'll read it. I have it here. New York Times. Shootings in New York City dropped. This is July 6th. So this data is 3 weeks old. Shootings in New York City dropped by 25% through the first half of this year compared with the same period last year, extending a downward trend after a spike in violent crime during the pandemic. What else do we have? Murders, rapes, burglaries decreased by about 10% each. Robberies fell nearly 5%.
Yeah, that's good logic, right? Arrests are down, convictions are down, crime is now down. Or maybe it's just nobody's arresting the criminals and nobody's convicting the criminals, so the crime is just going rampant.
But car thefts increased, like I said, by almost, it's 18%, but nearly 20%. Felony assaults by 6%. I can't tell whether that's Class D or Class B. Transit crimes have fallen nearly 4% this year. I mean, you know this stuff. So I just want to be clear. What we're talking about the effects.
Yes, we have a slight decrease after.
Guys, it is a huge help to push the videos in the algorithm. If you could just like the video, it's free, it's easy. Please, thank you so much.
A dramatic increase. That is
right.
True.
Okay. Exactly.
Like the overall crime index appears to be down. Total, I think it says 3 point something percent. but major crimes, obviously greater disparities.
Right. Okay. So now since and we should say this is a nationwide trend. It's not just New York City.
True, but the homicide spike was ahead of the nationwide curve in the city of New York.
And I was also going to say that, yes, it's not just New York, but it is all liberal cities. Not all liberal cities, but it's all of the cities, and those cities are liberal.
And we can talk about other cities, like Philadelphia is a good example. They're actually at their peak homicide rate all time. So there it actually is worse than the 1990s.
Okay. And but also, again,
which was the original point.
But with that said, let's talk about now your theory that there were all sorts of, let's start with just there were reforms after
thank you for the likes, guys.
After
much appreciated.
The 2020, because your argument is it has nothing to do with the pandemic, right?
Not nothing. I'm sure it's a factor, but what level?
How big of a factor would you say? Because you clearly think that the primary factor is the George Floyd protests.
Yes,
and
the George Floyd effect
reform
would be a better phrase for it. Yes.
Okay, the George Floyd effect. How much? Just give me a sense of.
I don't even understand what he's asking.
Like how you would break it down. 50% George Floyd effect and 50% pandemic? No, right? It's more.
I don't even really understand the question. He's trying to break it down by only two factors and saying it's either the George Floyd Black Lives Matter or the pandemic that has led to the crime increase. It has nothing to do with, everybody wanting to defund the police and all that stuff. Like what? I mean, what? I don't even understand the question. Trey says, I partly do say that the lockdown did push things to get pretty bad. Yeah, I definitely agree. But again, the Sam Seder's question is like, okay, so you're saying it's 80% of the lockdowns and 20% George Floyd, or what are we working with here? Like, it's multifaceted. It's not that simple.
I would say a good portion. I don't know if it's specifically like 50%, if there's a hard number, but if you want to say, I don't know, 50 to 60%, I think that's totally fine, because there were some reforms that were instituted prior that combined with reforms afterwards probably made individual areas worse.
Okay. So, all right. So what reforms are you talking about?
So in New York City, we had raised the age, which was actually passed prior to George.
And actually, yeah, thank you, Trey. So this is why, and this is why I don't feel the need to talk about race, because exactly what Trey is saying, that Portland, Seattle definitely have more of a homeless problem than Black culture, and so there is overlapping. I'm not going to cap and say that per capita that Black people don't commit more crimes. That's just facts. It is what it is, but we don't have to say that like, oh, look at what the Black people are doing. That's the whole thing that I want to push back against. And in whatever area it is, stop grouping everybody. And let's just say that well, I already cursed. So that motherfucker is the one that's doing. These motherfuckers are the ones who are doing wrong, not the Black people or the you know what I mean? It convolutes the issue and makes it harder to find the right solution. Hope says bail reform in New York devastated the whole state.
Bingo.
Absolutely. Portland does get a lot of news coverage, definitely more than what were the other ones that Little Toes, LA. Well, LA and San Francisco, let's just say the California cities. Definitely, I would say get them, and New York probably get the top level, and then Portland a lot more, Seattle less so, and Chicago even less so, because they know what that would mean. Shout out to Ziggs, the sponsor of the last stream. Welcome to the party. Likes the Floyd effect. All right, yeah, good name for it. Welcome.
George Floyd, and year over year, we actually saw, and raise the age, if you don't know, actually makes it more difficult to prosecute youthful offenders in the city of New York.
When was that instituted?
I believe it was passed in 2017. It could have been passed in 2018. I'm not exactly sure.
No, wait a second. And when was it instituted? I guess is really what I meant.
I believe it was instituted in 2018.
So, but your whole argument is, I mean, you pegged it literally to the month.
So David's saying Trump policy directly led to more released inmates than any other president in history. Okay, I mean, I'm not sure specifically of the numbers of this and who were being released, but I'm not necessarily saying we need to lock all. I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm saying the people who need to be locked up need to be locked up. If he's letting out, people who have weed charges, I'm down with that. So it's not about the people that you let out, or it's not about the numbers that you let out. It's about the types of people that get let out. But please tell me more. That might be, now that I'm firmly in the Vivek camp, anything against Trump, I'm willing to hear. Lilto says the same can be said about poor city culture. Not all is bad and can be grouped together. Right. But I think the difference there is that while not all poor people are going to do XYZ, the reason that poor people will do what they do is because they're poor rather than because they're black. Right. Yeah. And so that's why I think it's more, it's because they're poor. It's because of the laws of their city and it's that culture. The fact that they're black is just a part of it. And I mean, again, I'm not capping that black people per capita don't do more crime than other races. That's a fact. We don't have to dance around that, but we also don't have to make it a race issue. It doesn't need to be. Okay, that's a good one. Criminal culture is the problem. Yeah, just that in general. It's just being encouraged in certain ways. Unwanted Foe said, because you were exact earlier, you have to be exact now. Stupid argument, Sam.
Stupid.
Yup. Meltamine Media said, y'all remember when that mural of George Floyd got struck by lightning and nothing else on the building but George Floyd was demolished? Yeah, that was, I don't believe in God, but, weird things happen. Martian Overlord said, yep. My phone crashed. It's all part of the social engineering day. That they don't want me. They don't want me to get these words out. So the fact that you guys came back here, thank you very much. I guess we'll be sticking with StreamYard for a while.
For shootings, for sure. If you want to talk about what caused the increase in shootings, in my opinion, removing the
I'm just going by what you said. And when you said there was this big spike in crime in 2020,
which there was,
you said it was because of the George Floyd.
I just said that there were some reforms that were passed prior to and combined with new reforms, I think created additional problems.
So you think that the age thing had like a delayed effect, like a
no. So raise the age made it more difficult to prosecute youthful offenders. Now we had bail reform, which actually came into law in 2020, which made it more difficult to hold people on certain charges, including gun possession. When combined with raise the age, that led to a spike of youthful offenders carrying guns.
There you go. And so if you're just joining us and, I started on a different platform and I'm trying to work everything out here. Obviously we have Actual Justice Warrior and Sam Seder debating. And we know that Sam Seder is blacklisted from pretty much every political show. And I guess Sean was, after dealing with Emma Vigeland, was ready to deal with it. So we're here to point out every little BS moment that Sam Seder has and show exactly why it is justifiable to say, no, you're not welcome on my show, regardless of who you are.
However, this didn't really come to fruition until Bill de Blasio got rid of the anti-crime unit, which was the unit designed specifically to target illegal guns. So it's a confluence of factors that led to an increase in youth shootings and youth homicides in the city of New York.
She must have rubbed off on me.
What now? How did those? I'm just going to stipulate for just the moment that that's why we saw this spike in New York. How did those reforms in New York implicate the spikes that we saw nationwide? Because we really did see spikes nationwide, didn't we?
So there are different reforms that we can go to that are passed in different individual areas.
So every reform that was passed around, and all these reforms went when? Right at the George Floyd protests.
Well, we were talking about New York, but there are different reforms that were passed nationwide. Some areas.
So see what he did. So you're saying, if you guys remember the Jordan Peterson debate that he did with BBC and Kathy Newman, and she was like, so you're saying that this? I was like, no, I didn't say that at all. I was just saying this. So what you're saying is, and she kept putting words in his mouth and not what he said. Now Sam is trying to do the same thing. So you're saying this, and then when Sean tries to say, no, that's not what I said. What I actually said, and you use the a little bit of zing there if you actually listened. And then as he's talking, cuts him off because again, Sam is not here for a conversation with Sean. Sam is here to get clips for the people who don't watch anybody but Sam. so that he can be like, look, I did this and I debated somebody and I won again. And he can clip it up in any way he wants. Trey says, see, the problem is that some laws are needed, but we're used to abuse. See, the problem is that some laws are needed, but we're used to abuse power over the citizens. Well, sure. I mean, we definitely, obviously we need laws. And the question is, what are those laws? What will be those effects? And too much recently, it's just been about the very immediate effect. And having things like defund the police has led to crime spikes. Not, solely. Obviously, there's other factors, like the fact that we were in a pandemic, the fact that, George Floyd riots were going on. But it all comes together. There's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different factors.
Talking about causality, and I'm asking you, we know that crime went up nationwide, and you say it was in June of 2020. That's when it went up.
Shooting spiked specifically in June, July of 2020 when they got rid of the anti-crime unit in the city of New York.
Okay, no, but at the beginning of this entire debate,
I mean, nationwide, one of the biggest factors I think driving crime across the nation would be the decrease in the police force. So we had a lot of officers retire early. This is something that we're seeing across the country. The NYPD is seeing it. The LAPD is seeing it. Rural departments in middle America are seeing it, and a decrease in recruitment because they're not pulling the numbers that they actually want to see.
That recruitment, that's going to come up, but I want to address this because I assume you're talking about Sam Seder being on PBD and saying that it's his team that swindle him. He's an actor. Like, he definitely is an actor, but it's not his team. Like, he built the team. He built this echo chamber for himself and for other people. It's very easy to see that everybody in the political space knows this. And I mean, I'm not in the know enough. I don't follow individual people that well. I mean, probably besides Timcast, of course. That's my number one. But other than that, I don't follow the personal lives of these people too much. But the fact of the matter is, it's very clear that he is doing he's doing these terrible bad faith tactics, and it shows.
So I think nationwide, if you're talking about a blanket thing that happened that led to an increase in crime, then I think the decrease in the overall police force is definitely a factor.
Okay, so I just I'm trying to zero in on this.
You're here, bro.
Because you said at the beginning of this debate that you peg the spike in crime as the George Floyd effect.
Yes.
And it was the George Floyd effect in your mind that caused the decrease in staffing, police staffing. And that's why crime went up in the nation. In New York, it was partially the staffing and then partially these other reforms that some of which were 2 years earlier and had a delayed impact.
Bingo.
Yep. See, if I'm trying to have a good faith conversation here, one of my first questions to Sean would be, so what exactly do you mean by the George Floyd effect? Because right now we're just assuming, unless in that 2 seconds when I brought the chair over for my co-host here, who is actually doing pretty good. Usually he's been running away, but unless I missed that, then how do you even know what he's talking about? How do you know that he's wrong if you don't know what he means by the George Floyd effect?
Yes, some of these reforms, well, it's not a delayed impact combined with other reforms. It's like breaking down a house. There are certain support beams that you could take. You can knock them down and the house will still stand. The structure will still stand. Mm-hmm. But if you knock down enough of them, they'll fall. And New York specifically, I was talking about the difference that I see between the national crime increase and New York specifically.
Okay.
So yes, there would be additional factors there.
So and really what we're talking about is causality here, right? Because my argument is that the pandemic led to a spike in crime. Largely, there may be other factors, but I would say the overwhelming factor in the spike that led to the spike of crime was the pandemic. You would argue it was these police reforms, particularly in terms of staffing nationwide.
Well, the staffing was
I'm
just
reading
officers
from-
retired.
See, again, let him talk. You know that he has, Sam knows that Sean has a response to that. That is not going to make him look stupid. So what does he do? Just keep talking right over him.
For fear of
Bloomberg.
reform
Okay,
post the
okay.
riots.
Bloomberg, from Bloomberg. This is a report from January 31st of this year.
Okay.
Bloomberg News analysis shows that even as staffing levels dropped during the pandemic nationally, police department headcounts exceeded those of 15 years ago when crime was higher.
Okay.
Okay.
Now,
yeah.
how can you say that the causality runs that as you drop to staffing levels, things spike, when in fact you're still at levels that are higher than they were 15 years ago? In major cities, staffing levels rose and fell over that period, with some changes corresponding to economic downturns and local crises, which you'd imagine. But between 2011 and 2019, police staffing levels in more than half of the 20 largest cities grew, according to FBI data, and across the country. So if we're to use your standard of like, don't compare crime rates today to the way that they were when crime was really high in the country, then why are you doing that with staffing levels?
Well, you can compare it to the peak if you want, but if we're talking about a recent crime spike, I don't think that's useful. On top of that, you just read, maybe you didn't realize it, that officers went up between 2011 and 2019. This would be before the pandemic, and crime was dropping nationwide during that period of time. Then we see an officer shortfall, and to be clear, what we're experiencing now
We're
is
still
a lot of
staff. We still have more.
Sure, but
we still have
okay,
more
not
police
all
than we
officers
did
are equal. If you
15
look
years.
Facts. Not all officers are equal. Welcome to the party, Mike W. And you are exactly right. Yeah, we were just talking about this. It is very clear to see why he is blacklisted from everyone. Welcome to the party. I mean, he didn't just come up with the Floyd effect, but yeah, he's been talking about that for a while, and it makes sense, but I don't really know exactly what he means by it because he's not been asked to define it, and I don't know how Sam could be arguing against something that he doesn't know what it is.
At who's retiring, it's disproportionately older, seasoned investigators, and they are not so easily replaced by new recruiting classes. And I've gone over this specifically in the LAPD, exactly who they're losing, and they've lost between 6 and 8% of their police force. Now, I believe it's 6 net, 8 total, and most of those are seasoned investigators.
And so, okay, so the reason why, so that's why we're not solving crimes. Is that what you're saying? It's not preventing crime. Investigators don't prevent crime, right? They solve crimes.
I mean, they're not only investigators. A lot of times, either
I'm sorry, I'm just going by what you said. You said investigators, and that's why the crime.
A lot of them are seasoned investigators or seasoned officers, not easily replaced.
Understand, you know this stuff better than I do. I'm just trying to understand your logic.
Then stop being an a-hole and let him actually talk. That's how you know that he's being disingenuous. Because when people are actually just trying to understand, they don't act like this.
You say seasoned investigators is why crime went up because they're better.
Example.
And as far
I know
as
you
I
like
know,
to harp on like an individual term and all that because you think, oh, I'm going to get him pinned. But I'm speaking very clearly. I think everybody can understand that I'm doing that. But you're just playing dumb.
No, I'm not playing dumb. You say seasoned investigators, and I say, well, wait a second. They don't prevent crime. They solve crimes. Am I wrong?
It would also be supervisor positions and all that. Yes. So it'd be very like savvy, seasoned officers and investigators.
And so
if you need that
reform.
So what is the point that you're trying to get to, Sam? You don't have a point. You're just trying to poke at him so that anything that he said, you're being pedantic, and anything that you can get that he said that isn't exactly clear, you can jump on it and make him seem like an idiot. But he's not an idiot.
Specifically clarify.
What reforms were a function of the George Floyd protests that got seasoned investigators to retire?
Well, it's not a specific reform, but the effect of driving these officers into retirement is undeniable. Just look at the numbers since the George Floyd riots.
It's also COVID, right? No,
a lot of people.
Am I trying to understand, or are you asking Sam? Is he actually trying to understand? Because I'm definitely trying to understand, but I don't think Sam is.
Retired across. I mean, a lot of people.
They're still retiring at similar rates. You think they're all afraid of COVID?
Well, the George Floyd.
That was a question. That was a question. Do you think they are all afraid of COVID? Yes or no? Answering a question with a question is yes.
Protests ended
There's still
ago.
effects of that protest, change
What are
in
the
attitude and
effects?
sentiment in the country. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I wanted to vote. COVID definitely made cops retire because of the way that especially when it came to the mandates. A lot of cops were not going to get the mandates, and then a lot of cops were not willing to enforce the mandates. So they were like, "No, this is unconstitutional. I'm not doing this. I'm getting the hell out of here." Absolutely, it made cops retire. Especially, if you're of that age where you could retire, but you really like being a cop, so stay on the job because you're enjoying yourself and you're in good health and whatever. Then the world gets flipped upside down. And we're like, maybe I'll take that retirement. It's a little better than this. Obis said New York chased every good police officer out, and a lot of them moved to Florida for good.
Bingo.
Yep. Martian says, I don't think Sam understands simple logic. This is where you're mistaken. This is where you're mistaken. He would not be able to play this character, this actor that we're all talking about. He would not be able to do that if he didn't understand logic. He absolutely understands logic and is purposely obfuscating that logic to try to catch a clip. One clip, and this is all worth it. Now, Actual Justice Warrior is a smaller channel, so he's getting exposure from this. And by the fact that, it's not just the majority part viewers that are going to see this, that's going to raise Sean's profile by a lot. So it makes sense for him to be doing this. But people like Tim, people like Joe Rogan, people like, I don't think he's going to be back on PBD, if that's who we were talking about before. They are not willing to play this game where they know that you understand, but you're just playing a game.
Oh, I see. It's the sentiment.
Yeah, that has an impact for sure. Officer morale is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And so their morale is down because of the George Floyd protests.
Yeah, because of the George Floyd protests, people are very anti-police officers. A lot of them had their funding cut, and a lot of officers left when the funding was cut, and they're not so easily replaced by.
But see, Martian, I'm not assuming anything. I am taking a lot of experience from listening to him, from hearing other people whose opinion I trust, and them all having the same opinion about him. And then seeing with my own eyes, his underling, Emma Vigeland, when she was on, they were both on the culture war. You can see the tactics. So I'm not assuming anything. I am just reporting, and I'm observing and reporting what I see.
A restoration in
So
funding.
your argument is that funding has been cut. Is that it?
Yeah, funding was cut in certain places.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I've got a story here from ABC7 New York.
It says funding was restored. Yes.
Kerm says, fun fact, Sean actually had just as high of a live viewer count as Sam did. Sean's eating good tonight, and he deserves it. Well deserved. Good for him. We're doing a big up for Lord Poe. I'm with that.
Despite defunding claims, police funding has increased in many cities, and this was in October of last year.
Yeah. So what do you think that increase is attributed to?
What do I think it's attributed to?
Yeah. Why do
Sam, not Tom, but yep, you're absolutely right.
you think funding increased when they initially reduced budgets?
ABC-owned television stations examined the budgets of more than 100 cities and counties and found 83% are spending at least 2% more on police in 2022 than they did in 2019.
Yeah.
And
so what ended up happening was post
You're not making any points.
Post the George Floyd riots, you had a defund the police movement, and cuts were made to budgets, like, for example, the LAPD. Now, their budget.
Remember, mods, whenever this banner comes up, I would really appreciate if you could drop the Discord link. Thank you.
It was cut. A bunch of officers left the force. Like I said, net 6%, possibly 8%. Again, the numbers update monthly. And then you have officers to supplement for that working overtime. And now you're less productive when you're working overtime. But if you look at
that's because Sean actually knows what he's talking about. And he knows what tactics that Sam is trying to use, and he knows that Sam knows that that headline is not where he wants it to go. And Sam is just hoping that Sean doesn't know, but he does. Normalizing crime is what led to the increase of it. Definitely agreed. Trey said it was a snowball effect. Cops started leaving when COVID first started, and the protests and riots just sped it up.
Bingo.
Yep, you got it. Ziggs thinks PBD will have him again. PBD is very smart that way. I mean, hey, if he can get another episode like when he had Anthony Weiner on, I would definitely bring him back. And thank you very much. You will definitely find a home at the Indian Jesus Discourse server if you are having fun here. We are in there 24/7 hanging out, having conversations, playing games, and after every single live stream, we go in there for a live panel where you're not stuck behind your keyboard. You're actually on screen with me, everybody else, having a good time. Come and join us.
LAPD's budget, it says defunding, and there's stories about this, how defunding the police actually led to an increase in payout of overtime. So you still have less officers working, and now they're working more hours. So you're actually getting
investigators.
You're also getting poorer results. Well, again, it's also driving down recruitment. So yes, less officers, less overall staff.
Martian says, what I meant is that whatever goal he's working toward doesn't serve logic. Ah, there you go. The outcome at the end of his path does not compute for civilization. His wordplay and fact-tossing is programming. Again, I'm hesitant to give him that out of stupidity because it seems like direct and purposeful malice to me. But let's see if we still have the same opinions at the end of this.
At these places. So yeah, they might have, and again, some places cut the funding, and then in 2022, notice how you skipped over 2020 and 2021.
No, I just read what it said here because we're comparing everything
2022,
to
they restored the
2019.
funding, but that doesn't bring people down. That doesn't bring people out of retirement. No, you said this current fiscal year compared to 2019. There was a funding reduction in a lot of places in 2021.
Right.
Then the restoration of funding and an increase in funding in a response to an increase in crime. But that does not make officers materialize.
Exactly.
I understand. No, I understand. Your argument is, and I think there's definitely something to that staffing levels dropped, and so we made up for it on overtime. Again, I go back to that Bloomberg report that staffing levels are still significantly higher than they were 15 years ago.
So I think this is where he's going to get into the idea that, like, while numbers may be up from a certain point in the pandemic, that new officers are not the same in terms of how they interact with society as a veteran officer. I mean, that's obvious in any industry.
Okay.
And there was even more crime at that time.
Yeah, there was.
And
he's supposed to be super progressive. And again, think about all of the arguments that Emma made to this same person. This was Sean, who was in the Timcast studio. Think of all the arguments that she made. She is the underling for Sam.
We have 80% of the city's largest increased their funding. And like you say, that I guess is a function of overtime. Cops still on the beat, but you say that they're not as good at solving crimes.
You cover a lot of workers' issues when you actually have mandatory overtime and people are forced to work more and more hours. It's not productive. Like it.
Well,
like you would say the same thing if we talked about it in other labor context.
So watch. So Sean just said, "Hey, you talk about this." And instead of Sam being like, well, yes, I talk about that, but the reason that it doesn't go to your point is because of XYZ. It does go to Sean's point, so he's just going to gloss right on by it. Martian Overlord says, I think he has an earworm, like Khan put in Chekhov's ear. That, I think, is very, very possible. Zig says, so trying to be the wokest woke whoever spoke. I don't know if it's necessarily that, but certainly the most virtue signaler that ever did signal virtue.
Correct.
What are historical figures of police solving crimes?
Solving, you're going to have to define that metric.
There you go.
Clearance rate.
So clearance rate, it depends on the crime. Homicide is typically higher in terms of clearance rate because it's easier to solve. Most people are murdered by somebody that they know. There's a dead body. You don't have to worry about a lot of
What are those rates?
So real quick, the clearance rate, they're talking about clearance rates are calculated by dividing the total number of incoming cases by the total number of outgoing cases for each case type during a specific time period. So for a month, quarter, or a year, the resulting number is then multiplied by 100 to obtain a result as expressed as a percentage. So clearance rates, that's what they are talking about. Let's back that up a little second.
Homicide is typically higher in terms of clearance rate because it's easier to solve. Most people are murdered by somebody that they know. There's a dead body. You don't have to worry about a lot of
What are those rates?
I'm not sure nationwide. I want to say maybe it's 60 to 70% for homicide nationwide, but it varies greatly depending on the city.
And have those dropped?
Clearance rates in certain areas for sure. Nationwide, I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe that.
And what about the?
So and if anybody knows and understands this a little bit better, a lower clearance rate would mean that you have more people going into the system than leaving, which would be a good thing because it means that we're cleaning. We're actually addressing the crime in this circumstance. That it may not always be good for clearance rates to be super high, but given that the crime rate is high, then we would want the rates. I think if I'm understanding that correctly, but if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below.
Other violent crimes that we're talking about, ones that don't involve people that we know.
What?
Give me an example.
Well, assaults. What's the investigation?
Assaults would be lower, for sure.
I'm just curious historically. I mean, if your argument is that the cops are less productive, I'm just curious, is like, can we see that in actual numbers?
I mean, I can look up real quick the drop in clearance rate nationwide. I know that it is significant in certain places like Baltimore, but I don't have those specific numbers on hand.
It's weird.
It's a rate. It's so again, to pull up the thing again, clearance rates are calculated by dividing total number of incoming cases. So let's say we have 100 incoming cases and we have 10 outgoing cases. So that's going to be 10, and then we would multiply that by 100. So you have 100% rate of. Yeah, I'm not really sure what exactly that means. So let's see. The clearance rate is proportion of crimes known to the police that are solved and arrest is made versus all. Okay, so the solved crimes versus the crimes they know about that have not yet to be solved. So that's the rate. So we have the total number of crimes and the ones that are solved. Those are that's the clearance rate. All right, I think we got it. All righty.
But I mean, FBI said 5% of police arrests on violent crime. That's what the FBI figures are.
So in 1980, 71% of homicides were deemed solved or cleared, and it dropped to about 50% in 2020.
In 2020, and what was it in 2019?
I'll look it up right now.
I mean, because that's the whole premise, right?
Martian says, "I'm glad to be surrounded by articulate people here. I am too. I am very glad that you guys found this channel. I am very glad that you're enjoying what I do, and I love hanging out with you guys. So thank you so much for saying that, brother."
And so, will you work? I mean, while you're looking that up, I'll give you a moment.
All right. Well, let's just come on.
From 2019. In 2020, from
61%.
From 2019, and where are we at? Like, give us the range so that we can actually see the pattern that you're suggesting.
I just said that the clearance rate went down to 50% in 2020,
which means that of all of the crimes, half of them were solved, if I understand that correctly.
And where was it
from
in 2021?
61%? So that would be an 11% increase. Decrease.
2021 should continue that trend,
sure.
right? I mean, if your theory is correct, that should continue.
What? I mean, there might not be updated numbers for it, but I will what you call it. I will look for them.
All right. Well, don't worry about that. Let's
because we do tend to get some criminal justice related stats later.
Okay. Now.
Okay. According to NPR, which is not the same as I was using for the source, it dropped below 50%, which is considered a new historic low. And in certain major cities like Chicago, it has dropped till around 30%.
Now, why doesn't that correlate with the staffing drops that we see?
What do you mean?
Well, there's no correlation between the numbers that you're talking about. I'm just curious because you're arguing that there was something happened in June of 2020 that caused
Something.
this spike in crime.
Just something. Who knows what it would be?
And we don't see any correlation between and you're not you're suggesting the George Floyd thing caused.
How would there not be a correlation? If I say officers are retiring and early recruitment is down, and then we see a drop in clearance rate to around 50% from 2019's 61%, and now NPR is reporting that the 2021 numbers
on murders,
would
would
be
you
sub
say
50%. How would
Again, cutting him off, not letting him finish, because clearly he's getting to a point.
that not be a correlation?
on murders, which you
just
say
curious.
is the on murders, which you say is the easiest one, but and is it back up? I mean, we have the staffing levels.
What are you saying?
Correct?
No, they're not.
They're not. Is that right?
The spending is returning, but the spending does not make officers materialize. And again,
Exactly.
there's a difference between an officer that is a veteran of the force versus a new recruit. I mean, I just read the NPR thing that said the clearance rate is at historic lows. Now, again, that's according to NPR. Initially, I was looking at the FBI stats. They could be pulling from a different number, and therefore it could be less reliable.
We know that NPR once was a decent, albeit liberal, a decent source for information, but not anymore.
So I will leave that out there. But you did ask me to pull it up on the fly, and
what reforms do you attribute to the George Floyd effect? I mean, you mentioned two reforms that took place prior to the George Floyd protests. What other reforms around the country do you see that took place? I mean, I know that you're saying that there was a retirement and you're blaming it on the George Floyd thing. You don't blame the mass retirements that we saw across the board on George Floyd, like in other professions, like in teaching professions, for instance.
No, that's all about the trans stuff. That has nothing to do with George Floyd. And maybe if you again asked, what does he mean by the George Floyd effect? Then you might understand that.
Like we're seeing a lot of retirements in teaching. You don't blame that on the George
retirements comparable to that?
Oh, in terms of the numbers? Oh, I think they're bigger.
I mean, because there's an overall increase in retirements in the country because we have a bunch of baby boomers retiring for sure. That exists.
Hey, shout out to Democrat Poop City. Welcome to the party. Said people don't want to be cops for a place that lets BLM happen. Yup.
Bingo.
Welcome to the party.
But officers are typically younger, and there's a lot more early retirements.
Then teachers, I think you'll find that with teachers, people are retiring before they're leaving the profession, and so they're retirement may not be the right word. They're gonna.
Yeah, I want to say it's annoying what he's doing, and again, it's because he's not interested in his answers. He's interested in trying to throw something out there that's going to either make have an answer that he knows. That Sam knows Sam's audience isn't going to like, despite the fact that, it's just a difference of opinion, not push back on it or anything. But like, ooh, you said that, you're a bad person. Or he's trying to just throw something out where he doesn't know, Sean doesn't know the answer, and so he can jump on that. He's not interested in a conversation. And this is exactly why we're watching it. There is no other reason. There is no other reason that Sam Seder would be on the screen on my channel if we weren't pointing out exactly why he is a POS.
Going to go on and work other places, but you don't attribute that to the George Floyd effect.
Unlikely.
Right. And the same across the board with like all of the great resignation that we heard. You remember that term?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's not a function of the George Floyd effect.
Yeah, I mean, that's typically.
I mean, it could be. It's part of it. We don't know what, unless you survey in each individual officer that retired, or at least a statistically significant number of them. Then we don't know why they quit. We know that there's a confluence of issues. There was, the riots and stuff going on. There's the defund the police going on. There was the mandates going on. There's a lot of reasons that people quit. And so, because Sean doesn't know what was in the minds of each individual cop, then he doesn't have a point.
What?
That is what Sam is trying to argue right now. I'm going to call you DPC. Shout out to DPC. So they had free reign to destroy numerous buildings. Cops felt like puppets. Yeah, it's just not simple. And Sam is here trying to play stupid to try to I don't know, get Sean to say something, anything that he can clip up.
Young people not wanting to work, it was at peak when unemployment was paying.
Actually, it wasn't that they didn't want to work. It's that they were quitting jobs.
They didn't want to
that
work
they
their
didn't-
specific job.
Yeah, and they went on to different jobs. I mean, I just saying, like, you are zeroing in on the George Floyd protests for this decrease in staffing in police forces across the country.
Yes.
And you're completely
and
ignoring,
a decrease in recruiting pool.
And you're ignoring the pandemic as
is he ignoring it, or did he already say that there's multiple factors, but that this was the biggest one in his opinion?
Effect, although the pandemic has this effect everywhere else in society.
No, I think the pandemic plays a role, and sure, you would have had officers leaving maybe earlier in the pandemic when things were starting to lock down. Like, that's definitely a possibility. But there's a continuous decrease in officers and early retirement that is coming even till today. And I don't think that they're worried about COVID in, what are we, August 2023 right now?
Yep.
Like, it's possible they could be. They could be masking up right now.
What percentage of police?
And again, no conversation. Just, oh, okay, that didn't work, so let me abandon that. Okay, now what percentage of this? You don't know that? What an idiot. I thought this is what you do. You're in criminal justice. That's what he's looking for. That's all he's looking for. DPC said Sam is arguing that what he was advocating for himself in BLM didn't happen. That's his MO. That's exactly what he does, because he knows that the people who follow him don't pay very close attention, don't have very long memories, and are just caught up in, oh, what am I thinking today? Tell me what to think today. Tell me what to think today. That's all they know. And so it doesn't matter that Sean's here actually pushing back, because I kind of, I think this is from, oh no, this is, so I'm going to be taking a little bit closer look at the chat here. And I'm very curious what his fans are actually saying about this.
Police in New York City quit because of vaccine mandates or around the country. Was it high?
I think the number for police for vaccine mandates was extraordinarily low. I remember a lot of right-wing people saying that,
Someone's here saying, AJW, just jumping to a bunch of conclusions based on feels. No. Unless you are calling statistics feels, then no.
All these officers were going to be gone, but when push came to shove, when the mandate was implemented, and I think you even covered this on your show, very few people actually quit the fire department and quit the NYPD. Now, if you're saying that's different, then I mean, I could.
No,
you could go rewind your coverage on that.
It's a genuine question. Okay, so and your argument is that less police causes more crime, but you're also arguing that we haven't staffed up. How is crime dropping if there is a causal effect in terms of numbers of police?
Because of the crazy increase. If crime is going to be here, and then, you more police is going to do less crime, and less police is going to be more crime. Then going back to this year-over-year thing, you're framing it in a way that doesn't actually reflect reality. Graham says, I feel like I'll gain a brain tumor if I look at Sam's chat for too long, like it's radioactive or something. Yeah, I mean, it might be. Don't get lost in it, because
why did it go up in 2020 and go up in 2021? Go up in 2022, but now is dropping despite the fact that we haven't hired all these police back?
Because of all the other issues that have already been addressed. There's no more mandates. There's no more COVID. There's no more lockdowns. That's why BLM is not even really a thing anymore. That's why. And again, Sam knows this. He knows this. Democrat Poop City, so they probably stopped reporting a lot of it out of shame or corruption. Probably a little bit of both. It's dropping before the year is over. Exactly. Again, this is August, and as political stuff, especially a general election, as that stuff is rising up, don't expect that it's going to be a very peaceful fall. It might be, but don't expect it. Martian said, sorry, Sam's Robotics switched my brain to tease the scam bot that DM me. Well, that'll do it to you.
So in the preliminary numbers for 2023, we've seen a slight decrease. Is that what you're trying to hang your hat on right now?
Yup.
Yeah, I'm saying that we know that the trend is going down, and you're making a causality.
I mean, it's still up in comparison to 2019.
I understand, but the staffing isn't back up.
Well, you're saying the trend is going down. You're looking at
year over year
reliable numbers that you can grasp onto to say it's going down.
Let me ask you this, okay? I turn on the air conditioning in here. Let's pretend our air conditioner works. And I turn the air conditioning unit on. I turn it to 66, let's say. And the temperature starts to drop in here. And so I say, hey, that is why the temperature is dropping, because I turned the air conditioner on. And then the next day, the temperature keeps dropping because I had the air conditioning on. But the third day, the temperature starts to rise. And the air conditioner is still exactly where it was before. Does that make sense that the air conditioner is the cause of the temperature dropping?
What?
What the fuck did you just say? Yes. The air conditioning is still going to be the reason for the temperature going down. The assumption is that if the temperature is no longer going down, then your AC is not working, because that's how AC works. DPC said, this is such a chewy argument from Bemboy. Yep, that's all you're going to get. But again, you're absolutely correct. And I just want to highlight again why we are focusing on this, because this man has over 1 million subscribers. This man had 5,000, almost 6,000 people watching this concurrently. Those people eat this stuff up. And so if we're not here to actually point out what about it, how did they get into this crazy ideology? How did they come to think these crazy things? If we don't know, then how are we going to combat it? We can't.
The air conditioner caused the temperature dropping?
Yeah, because if it goes up, if the temperature goes up on day 3 and the air conditioner is doing the exact same thing it was doing before.
But it wasn't, because if it was, then the temperature wouldn't go up.
How is it possible that I can make a causality
the external
argument?
Temperature? Like, I don't, what's the point of this?
It could be the external temperature, and that maybe the air conditioner hasn't been working at all. And maybe those first 2 days it was actually cooler, and on the third day it was.
Then why was the temperature going down? You said the temperature was going down. This is the weakest analogy I think I've ever heard.
Actually warmer, and that's what's going on.
So you're saying
almost as if like COVID was acting on
well,
this
again, Sam,
crime.
You keep trying to hang your hat on COVID-19. I didn't say COVID-19 played no role.
Exactly.
I said exactly the opposite. But I think
I'm hanging my hat, as it were,
a role
on this once in a lifetime pandemic that has caused all sorts of learning deficiencies in kids, that has caused increase in stress, that has caused mass resignations, mass retirements, increase in.
Wait, I thought before he was arguing that it couldn't be that COVID was why cops were retiring, but
in deaths, increase in pedestrian deaths, increase in inflation, increase in destruction of all sorts of sort of elements of society, and you're making a different argument that had less of an impact. And I'm asking you, if you're making a causality argument about these reforms that supposedly took place in the wake of the George Floyd protests, or the effect that it caused the staffing, then how come it's reversing itself without any of those changes that first caused?
Again, it's not reversing itself. You're overplaying your hand.
It's reversing itself. It's going in the opposite direction.
No, it's
not. That is the very depth.
It's returning to normal. It's returning to normal. And I get it. I get that if you know, the idea that you are again trying to hang your hat on this. But you're the one that's saying this is the only reason. This is the only reason. And Sean's like, yeah, it's part of it, but that's not the only reason.
Fine, Sam, what we could do what we could do is actually look at the city of New Orleans, because I happen to know that New Orleans cut their police funding well before the rest of the nation. Now, this had nothing to do with the George Floyd protests or anything like that. This had to do with budget implications. And for the years, I believe, preceding 2016, they froze their budget up until around 2019, where they actually cut their budget. Now, all the experts and nerds say that the New Orleans PD needs about 1,100 officers in order to maintain order. Now, they were at around 1,200 before these budgetary maneuvers ended up going into effect. And now they're in the high 900s. And they saw a crime increase from prior to the pandemic. And they went from a city that was in the top 10 most violent cities to on pace last year for around the number 1 or number 2 slot. I have not looked into exactly where they ended up.
Hold on, I just want to read this super chat from Olivia. $10 to say, Sam, please buy your office a portable AC. They come with wheels now. You can also jerry-rig an AC with a box fan and a cooler of ice cubes. Obviously somebody on Sean's team making fun of how stupid Sam is.
So they had a dramatic increase in crime that preceded the pandemic, due in large part to the fact that they cut their officers, 911 response times went up, and all of these other issues associated with that. So we have a beta test that we can look at, a specific city in the United States that implemented these policies before the pandemic, if you want to go into that.
Well, let's look at a broader sample than just New Orleans.
Again, notice how he didn't address what Sean said. He just moved right on by.
In 2016, we had a group of criminologists who did a systemic review of 62 earlier studies. You're aware of this, right?
Of this specific thing you're bringing up right now? No.
They were police force size of crime between 1971 and 2013. They concluded that 40 years of studies consistently show that, quote, the overall effect size for police force size on crime is negative, small, and not statistically significant.
Okay. Again, you keep just saying things like, what are you trying to accomplish? Hey, guess what? The sky is blue, except for, when the sun is going down or coming up, then there's shades of pink and orange and maybe even a little bit of purple.
What?
What? I thought we were talking about crime rates. What are you talking about? Zigzag Sam is a comedian, so I give him a pass. But what excuse does Jenk have for being a moron? Well, I mean, I'm gonna tell you that I just watched just the clips from when Jenk was on PBD. Speaking of PBD, and if you guys know how I feel about the Young Turks, but they've been having a little bit of turn lately. And if I had to pick between David Pakman, Sam Seder, or Jenk, I probably would have picked David Pakman 2 months ago. But out of the 3 losers, Jenk is definitely the best one. He's and I hate to say it, but he's actually willing to have conversations. He's very wrong about a lot of things, but he's willing to at least pay attention. He's blockheaded, and he's not necessarily going to listen, but he's going to try. He's going to try. Is it a good show? Which one? Oh, PBD. Oh, yeah. I really think that they have not only great guests, but they have a wide range of guests, and because they have a good intersection of politics and economics, that there's an interesting perspective that even if the same person that you see on Timcast or on whatever whatever podcast, you're going to get a different type of conversation on PBD. So I really do appreciate it, and it's hard to not be using PBD for every single show that I do because the conversations are so good.
I mean, that runs contrary to your theory, right? That
it's not
police force
it's not
size.
Just the raw numbers, it's how you utilize them. For instance, New Jersey had their police, I believe it was the Trenton police, and their union had negotiated a deal that was so absurd that they could only put 12 officers out on the street and any given night. They actually had to dismantle this. This was cited by John Oliver as an example of defunding the police, reincorporate as the Trenton Metro Police Department so they could put more officers out on the street. And we've known since the Kansas City experiment, and you can look this up, that sending officers to a targeted way can disrupt, disperse, and drive down crime rates. So yeah, obviously it's how you use them. If you just have more employees, remember, a lot of these places have non-officer employees. They have administration staff and all that. That's not going to have an impact. And there are other policies that you can implement that also play a role.
Any response, Sam, or are you just going to move on to the next question and see if you can get something out of him?
Okay. I mean, you have these specific things about different cities, but you can't explain the national trends in any way.
Nationally, before you cut me off way earlier, I was going to talk about the First Step Act. Now, this set a tone in the nation. It was signed by Donald Trump, the evil orange man. It's one of his stupider policies, and it sets up incentives. And of course, any change in culture federally tends to trickle down nationwide for people to go soft on youthful offenders, to release non-violent offenders early, which is a term I absolutely hate because non-violent criminals can be more devastating than any given murderer.
That's very true. That's very true. And I want to run that back and let him finish that point, because I think that's a really important point that we stick down on. And while I do definitely think that we should think about crime in there is a useful way to think about crime in nonviolent versus violent, but I'm going to run that back. But what he's saying is very important. But I want to get to this first. Democrat Poop City says, Democrat Poop City said PBD does 1,000,000 times better by their guest. Who would still want to go on Timcast if they don't even act like you're there half the time? I mean, that's fair. They definitely, and I think that's why Tim started the Culture War podcast. And I want to think it has a lot to do with Blair White, because it wasn't until like her third or fourth appearance on Timcast where they actually talked about anything trans. And so that is IRL. Timcast IRL is a news of the day show. And they book in advance, so they don't know what the news is going to be a week from now. So they can't book based on what the news is going to be. So they just book people, and I like that you get those people's perspectives within what's going on. And then I also appreciate now that he started the Culture War podcast, where it is definitely about the guests, and Tim definitely engages in the conversation, but it's more about the two people on opposite sides of the issue. But totally hear you. PBD definitely their whole team does a lot better of focusing on the guests. What does the guest think? What do you think about this? Did you hear about this? All that stuff. Completely agreed.
Depending on the circumstances. I always like to say Bernie Madoff never punched anybody in the face, but he ruined.
Oh yeah. I want to run this back.
To release non-violent offenders early, which is a term I absolutely hate because non-violent criminals can be more devastating than any given murderer, depending on the circumstances. I always like to say Bernie Madoff never punched anybody in the face, but he ruined more lives than most serial killers in the United States of America with his financial crimes.
Facts. Now, we understand that it's a different type of crime. But if you want to think about how people's lives are affected, then yes, one person's life is affected to the max if you're murdered. But millions, I don't know about millions, but thousands, if not more, if not tens of thousands of people lost their livelihoods because of Bernie Madoff. Just a good point to bring up. And definitely agree. PBD is on point. He's witty too. He's able to, especially with that Anthony Weiner one, where he's being very combative. It forced, didn't force, but it allowed PBD to get into his element where he could be, that rough and tumble guy. And you have to understand that there's a bit of that you need. If you're going to be a business owner, if you're going to be an entrepreneur like that, then FTX, right? If you're going to be a business owner like that, you have to be able to command a room and read the room and meet people where they're at, but also not be walked over. So, Tim is my guy. I don't have any one person that I listen to. I don't think that's a smart way to go. But I do like Tim. I like his personality, and I like the journey that he's been on. I've been following him for a long time, and his we don't agree on everything, but the type of evolution, let's say, that he's had is very similar to the type that I've had. Martian Overlord said, that's why I like Sean. He does his research and keeps his facts straight. Absolutely. And I would love to cover his videos more, but he's so tight with everything that he does. It's so concise and articulate that I don't have any space to add anything. He's he does really well with that. DPC said reference to San Fran's Poop Patrol when I heard it. Yep, I knew it. I knew it. But Democrat Poop City is just a little funnier. I like that.
So yeah, I don't agree with that policy, which was a nationwide policy. And I believe the First Step Act may have been slightly before Floyd. I don't remember the exact date, but I have a feeling it was after when it was signed by Trump.
What's the George Floyd?
The First Step Act.
When did that? When did you don't know when that took?
I could look it up right quick.
But Sean, how can you posit to me that
here we go? Now you're responding. Now you're responding to what he says because he doesn't know. And ooh, I found my moment. I'm gonna take him down. I mean, this is what it is. This is what it is. And look at the smile. I mean,
when did that? When did you don't know when that took?
I could look it up right quick.
But Sean,
you don't have a date of a random thing that I just brought up off the top of your head? What? What an idiot.
How can you posit to me that this had an impact and it all happened and you don't even know when it was implemented?
Well, I said it's in and around that time. I don't remember exactly when it was passed. It could have been in and around that time.
You got it.
What do you make about?
And then notice how elated Sam got. Ooh, I got a moment here. But then when he was like, well, yeah, I don't remember the exact date, but I remember it was around that time. And then what does he do? Move right on. Because he's right wing. Inside joke. Beltamy Media said he got him on one question out of 50 in 40 minutes. Oh, for Sam, that's a pretty good clearance rate, if you know what I'm saying.
Explain to you that there were certain reforms that were instituted prior that were combined with other reforms or terrible district attorneys or similar that made them go into effect. Remember the analogy about the house and the support beams?
Yeah, no, I remember that analogy. What is your
Democrat Poop City said, my name was President-elect Poopstain. When they were calling Biden President-elect, I foreshadowed him pooping his pants. You know what I would say? If somebody can predict the future, that is somebody that you want to listen to. Indie Film says that guy gets Douche of the Week award. Oh, Sam Seder, Douche of the Week. Well deserved. Well deserved.
Your answer, and I'm sure you have one. We all know that this guy, Chiesa Boudin, right, in Chiesa Boudin in San Francisco.
Wait a minute. Who was that? Whose voice was that? That wasn't Sean, was it?
Right, in San Francisco.
Yeah. Oh, so he's got his whole team there ready to Google anything that he needs. It's not just two guys just sitting having a conversation. It's a team looking to create clips.
Chiesa Boudin in San Francisco was one of these reformists, right?
Yes.
What do you make about the rise in crime in San Francisco since he was replaced by the police union's choice?
The new district attorney?
Yeah.
Well, there are some state laws in California that they have to get around. Like one of the stories that I covered recently was a man that was arrested for 77 burglaries, or I'm sorry, convicted.
Are these new laws since Chiesa Boudin has been ousted?
I believe that they are, yes. So
is that relevant? 77? That's just the convictions. That's a lot. A lot. Meltamy Media said, oh my God, I thought I was hearing other people the whole show. Yep, I maybe I didn't hear it, but they definitely have the whole team ready and waiting.
So
you believe that they are? What laws are they?
I forgot. I don't know the name of it, but in California, if you're a nonviolent offender, they don't. If you're categorized as a nonviolent offender, they actually don't put you in prison. You have to go to county jail, but county jails are over.
Did we see similar rises in crime in LA and San Diego?
Yeah, we actually saw a dramatic increase in murder in LA as well.
Since the time that Chiesa Boudin left office.
Since I'm talking about since 2020. I didn't realize that's what you were specifically asking.
Well, I mean, because Chiesa Boudin is an avatar, and he left in a year ago. He's an avatar for the reformists. He leaves, and then crime pops up across like 4 or 5 different measures.
Which categories are you referring to?
In San Francisco? violent crimes.
Okay. And your point is?
I mean, we can pull it up here in a second.
Hello?
Hello? Vehicle
Yeah.
theft. 2 attempt.
Hold on. My team's looking it up. I brought something up and I thought you wouldn't know about it, but you kind of know something, so I got to figure out more stuff. Otherwise, I'm going to be the one that looks bad.
0.5. Homicide, 23%. Robbery, 13%.
Yeah, there are other problems and other factors for sure. And again, when Chesa Boudin was in office, he fired, and I believe it's called the Friday Night Massacre or something like that. He fired a bunch of seasoned district attorneys or assistant district attorneys in his office. Like, that happened, right? And again,
A source close to the individual says.
and those people took other jobs. And again, they don't just materialize out of thin air when they replace the prosecutor.
Got him.
Right.
Like, yeah, so there are impacts that go beyond that. I mean, if we were talking about any piece of legislation, like, you talk often about the impact that Ronald Reagan had on this country. Well, if I said, well, Bill Clinton was president in the 90s, therefore that Ronald Reagan impact doesn't exist, you would not accept that argument.
What?
But weirdly, you're trying to put that forward right now for me.
Well, I mean, for you, the impact happened in June of 2020, right around
Yes.
the time of the
Well,
riot.
not for me. For the
of the-
statistics,
of the-
that's actually when it started to spike.
Right.
So
and
by
you,
the data, that would be accurate.
And just the moment that people started protesting for George Floyd, crime goes up because of its downstream implications. Like, time flattens and expands for you in
Yeah,
terms
if
of the way this
officers are afraid,
causality
if
works.
officers are
What?
Bro, what are you saying? I mean, if we didn't have enough here, I would go back and after every little thing. But I know that there's nothing of substance there, that he's just kind of word vomiting to try to and dance around something and try to get Sean to drive the conversation. Melton Mind Media said, "Oh my God, you don't know every specific detail? Gotcha. Oh my God, team, I brought up something I don't know about to pull up in the wiki while I stall here. Well, I guess what we're really asking here, Sean, if we really want to take it, outside of the street level and look at it at 30,000 degrees. Oh, you got it? Okay. Well, that's exactly it. That's exactly it." Daniel Cabrera says, "Dickless here wants to whip out facts he doesn't actually know." Well, he, she, whatever works. Any Film says, "Data, where are we going?" Where we're going, we don't need data. Good shout out.
afraid to do their jobs because they feel like they're going to get prosecuted unwarrantedly. And, like, officers that do commit crimes should be prosecuted, to make that clear. Then, yeah, that could have impacts. If officers are leaving the force at record numbers, if early retirements are up and you're losing your most seasoned people, investigators or not, Sam, then yes, that would cause an increase in crime.
Sam.
And you're going to ignore the meta-analysis about the from Police Journal about the this relationship between.
Well, you said it was a systemic review, and I'm not ignoring it. I don't think just expanding your officers or your staff in police on its own is anything. It's what you do with that. Like, one of the great innovations in New York was that they became one of the most data-driven police departments in the entire country. So yeah, they had a lot of officers because it's New York City. It's the largest city in the union. But it wasn't until they implemented programs like CompStat that they really were able to be effective.
Well, what do you mean by effective? Like, I'm
In
curious.
reducing
as to, like,
crime.
in reducing crime.
Oh, Sam, you don't want to go down. I've heard him talk about how he is in favor of what do they call it, stop and frisk. He's in favor of CompStat, and whether you agree or disagree with him, he has the logic behind his positions. I would jump off of this if I were you, Sam.
Yes.
But I mean, have they reduced crime? Like, how do you assess that?
I would
There's
use
less
statistics to assess that.
crime.
Right. What statistics? What would be your metrics? Because we
So
know.
do you-
The number of crimes. How do you know how many crimes there are? What metric would you use to count crimes? The number of them. What are we doing?
We know that, like, for instance, during before marijuana was made legal, we know that for every 4 times, there was like 4 times the amount of arrests for black people over white people when they smoked a pot, right? I mean, and I know just from it's anecdotal, of course.
And yeah, exactly. Democrat Poop City he just conceded all his statements right there. But because he didn't actually say, "Oh no, you're right. I didn't think about it that way," and you know, you have moved me a little bit. I don't completely agree, but I see your point. Instead of saying that, he just moves on, and his audience are so dumb that they don't notice it. They're primed to assume that Sam is right, and so they're not looking for that. And that's what I want from you guys. Whether it's me, whether it's Sean, whether it's anybody else, whether you like them, whether you dislike them, to be looking at their or listening to their words, watching the way they behave, and see if it is in line with the message that they are trying to, to put out there. Melty says, "Oh no, Sean's about to be called racist." It's not rocket science. I mean, trying to figure out what Sam is saying is rocket science, but other than that, no, it's really not.
But I see, some people get away with stuff because they live in a wealthy area, let's say, and there's just not as many cops around. They're still doing the exact same crime, right? Maybe it's underage drinking. Maybe it's smoking pot on the street.
Sure.
I mean, they're still involved in the same thing, but they're not getting arrested.
And that's because they're white, not because they live in a place where there's not really a lot of crime. So the cops don't really hang around there waiting, because that wouldn't lead to a lot of arrests, which is what cops are trying to do. Indie Film said, "Dude, I feel like I was willing to grift on the left. Oh, I feel like if I was willing to grift on the left, I can make a fortune." Absolutely, you can. Absolutely, you can. I mean, true. You will lose your soul, but absolutely you can. All you have to do, they all think the same thing. All you have to do is say, "Hey, we think this. That person bad. This person good. This idea good. That person bad." And they're like, "Oh my God, he is just so brave for speaking his truth." I mean, it's pathetic. And then you have people over, whether it's on, and I mean, I'll even stick up again for the Young Turks, that they're getting crap from their progressive leftist followers, saying that they're grifting because they're not directly in line with everything that they believe. Anna has a personal opinion that she doesn't want to be called a certain thing. Now, we spent years and years and years so far talking about how important it is for people to be addressed the way that they want to be addressed. But if you're not in the alphabet mafia, how dare you? You think you can use our line? No. You're done. I mean, am I wrong? Shout out to Delicious Bass. I'm going to say bass. I don't know if it's bass, but I am oh, there's a fish there, so I'll go bass. I was going to say I'm a music guy, so I'm going to guess bass, but I do see a fish. So Delicious Bass says, "Yo, Indian Jesus, did you watch Sam get bodied by Stitch and Adam yesterday? 2 big L's back to back. What is it, Christmas?" No, somebody else was saying that, and I missed it, so I definitely have to go check that out, and I will take that as a Christmas present any day. Welcome to the party, Delicious Bass.
Okay, so as for the marijuana arrest, the Manhattan Institute actually released a report where they broke down the neighborhoods in New York City specifically, which, the 4 times number comes from New York City, but it is elevated in other places, which I will address later on. And what they ended up discovering was that the biggest indicator on whether or not people were going to be arrested for pot is if they smoked outside and neighbors complained. So while disproportionately, a lot of Black and Hispanic neighborhoods ended up with higher rates of marijuana arrests, very notably, Astoria, Queens, which is a younger population that is not typically a Black population, and was also elevated due to the fact that they had complaints. So for that specific arrest, which you're talking about arrest now, not a measure of crime, that is actually explained.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways it's also explained is by the fact that if you have areas with higher rates of violent crime, murder, assault, homicide, rape, etc., and you deploy officers to those areas,
you'll get less crime because people don't want to get arrested.
The officers have more opportunity to see and smell things like marijuana, thus would indicate an increase in arrests. So, bingo! I wasn't talking specifically about marijuana. When I talk about crime, I'll usually talk about the crimes that are measured by the Uniform Crime Report or by the National Crime Victimization Survey or homicide statistics specifically, because I'm not somebody who's in favor of the drug war or whatever. So if you want me to say people shouldn't be arrested for pot, sure, but that represents a small portion of what the police actually do. And again,
right, yeah, and I mean that's melted my meaning is saying why does it matter, and that's why a lot of places are just being like, actually you're right, it doesn't matter, and if anything we should outlaw cigarettes, which I don't think we should, but if anything certainly weed should be way down the list.
And it's not what we're talking about when we're measuring major crimes.
Okay. All right. So let's just
Hey, shout out to Indyville. Welcome. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Of course, that means we get a treat for Morty, and of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Thank you so much. I'm assuming that you are either joking or you messed it up. If you want another message that you want me to put up there, just put it up there and I will leave it up there for you. But thank you so much.
We can move on. I mean, your argument.
Of course you want to move on.
Argument is that it was the George Floyd effect that created the spikes in crime,
which you still don't know what it means,
and that the drops in crimes are a function of what?
The drops, like I said, we have
the return to normal. There was an outside factor that caused an increase. Now that outside factor is gone, we would expect a decrease, regardless of the other factors. We would expect other factors to maybe change the rate. But we would expect that if there's an extenuating circumstance that causes an increase, and then you take out that extenuating circumstance, that regardless of whatever else is happening, whatever increase was caused by that one factor is now going to go back to the norm. Right? I mean, is that complicated? No. Again, shout out to Indie Film. Thank you so much, brother.
We have a slight drop after a dramatic increase. So, it's within a lot of these drops that you're talking about. The NYPD, I pulled up the data, is something like total crimes is about 3.9% as compared to last year. So that would be like a normal range that flows year over year. That's not like,
so you're suggesting that this is that crime's not actually dropping, that it's more.
No, it dropped. Mirage. It happened, and I'm glad that it happened. I'll wait for the completed data, the victimization surveys at the end of the year.
Yeah, because again, when we're talking about the summer before not the summer before, but the summer before the election season kicks up, not the summer before the election, but the year before that, to assume, I mean, it's August, but protests and stuff will go way into the depth of fall, and to assume that it's not going to cause a spike at any point in the year. You don't know what's going to happen. That is a really risky position, because if anything does happen and the crime rate does go up, then your whole argument falls apart, even though it wasn't even right in the first place. DPC said, I was stopped and frisked in a mostly white neighborhood at night, just walking around. I had a bag of weed in my pants, but I moved my legs so the pressure didn't make it obvious. Something was there. And it was illegal at the time. Did you get away with it? I'm gonna hope you did, because I got arrested in New York City for weed too, and because I live in New Jersey, I had to stay in lockup until I saw the judge, which luckily New York City does 24 hours, because I got arrested on a Friday night. I'm like, oh snap, I'm gonna be here till Monday morning, but it was about 30 hours. But yeah, so this is back in 05 and 06, very illegal then. And shout out to you. There you go. Man of the people.
But yeah, I'm glad that it's happening, of course.
Oh no, I didn't say that you weren't glad.
But
that
again,
it was
it's
happening.
a drop.
You didn't really say much of anything at all, bro.
I'm just saying
dramatic
that,
increase.
No, I understand it's a drop after a dramatic increase, but there's nothing has changed
except for COVID.
For you, if the cause in my story,
well, certain things have changed. Eric Adams was elected.
But this is nationwide. My story is
you just
COVID
asked about New York
contributed to this nationwide spike in crime.
Sure.
Your story is that the George Floyd protests
added to all of the effects that you agree happened because of COVID.
Were the primary function of the drive
because
crime.
during the lockdown, crime actually dropped.
Okay. And Well, yes, during the lockdowns, but COVID was still around.
Yeah,
3
but if
months
I'm saying
later.
before the people got out and started rioting, crime was dropping during the pandemic.
I understand. And
Now,
when
granted,
people
people were
were
probably
out,
afraid.
okay,
So, you know,
you're making your argument. I think it's clear. And I'm saying that the reason why crime is down nationwide, and it is down, you say it's not much, but it is trending down, is because that coincides with society returning to some measure of normalcy
Yes.
after COVID is not killing as many people and hospitalizing as many people and causing the same measure of stress. You say the reason why crime is dropping a little, but it's definitely statistically measurable, is because I need to wait to the end of the year to see if it's real.
no. I'd say it's dropping, but it's like within a normal range. It's like if I were on your show.
So what Sean should be saying is here, if we talk about, let's say 2015 to 2019, there was a trend there. That trend got interrupted by COVID. So what we would expect after COVID is that, again, anything, any spike that was caused by that one factor would have a return back to normal. That doesn't mean that the increase is either negligible or that that's the only factor of things going up. And he's trying to conflate the fact that crime already was going down with the fact that this year over year thing, as if crime is totally fine, which obviously it is not. Eldemai Media said nothing has changed. Tons of people have been elected all over the country. This is a faulty statement, Sam, but we all know you don't care. He can't get off this 23 hat. What? Oh yeah. It's been like 30 minutes and his only point is 2023. Because that's all he knows. That's all he knows. And if he just goes and goes for 2 hours on the same point, eventually he will find something to clip up. That is all he is looking to do here.
Oh, and I said, I don't know, in 2019, homicides in New York were 299, and then they jumped to the number 312. That's an increase, but that's not a significant increase. It's within the range. We're talking about 13 people. Now, obviously those are lives lost, and we should consider that, but we also have to take into account that New York is the largest city in the world. Now, you're pointing out a similar decrease to that increase and claiming that it's like this dramatic drop, but it's just not.
I'm not
there.
claiming
it's not. Hey, we got Celibate Scorpion in the building. Welcome to the party. So good to see you. Welcome. Glad to see you again. How have you been?
Dramatic drop.
Well,
you're saying
it's dropping. Like, explain
reversing.
this drop. It seems like a normal range that we would see year over year. I hope it would become a trend, but 1 year is not a trend.
Yet the trend
bingo. 1 year is not a trend.
Is dropping, yet the problem that you attribute the spike to is not changed at all.
Well, in specifically in New York City, which is what I was just referring to. Hold on. Specifically in New York City, which I was just referring to, we had a situation where they elected the most tough on crime Democrat. Now, I'm not a big fan of Eric Adams, but that is how he ran, and he ran about putting more police onto the street. We also
not sure what this means, Martian, but
also have nationwide a lot of these district attorneys like Chesa Boudin. Now, you said crime has gone up in San Francisco. I said
it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it
sure.
has.
But they got rid of him, so they're trying to institute some levels of reforms. But obviously, San Francisco police.
Wait, hold up. You said you got you got married? You got married? Oh, congratulations! Very glad to hear it. Very glad.
They're down in terms of recruitment. Obviously, California state law, sometimes state law has a dramatic impact on these specific things.
Even though it doesn't have it on others.
That hold up the house of the criminal justice system. So those need to be changed. But yeah, so it depends. There are some reversals. I think those reversals are good. Mm-hmm. But in places where they're doubling down, like Larry Krasner in Philadelphia, they're still at record homicides. And not
yeah, like that's at the end of the day, crime is not good. You are trying to make an argument that, oh, we're good. We're trending in a good direction. But 1 year, or rather 6 months, is not a trend. It might be, but we don't know yet. And DBC says, Sam is hard to watch. This dog. This dog, guys. Sam is hard to watch unless you're a goldfish. Well, I completely agree with that, but I got you guys. I'm doing my best to make it interesting.
Record in comparison to 2019. Record all time,
Come on,
worse
Bubba,
than the
come
1990s. The favorite talking point of the crime denialist.
Okay.
Yes, people who deny crime. Yes, that's who I'm talking
What do you
about,
mean by
crime denial.
deny crime?
That they'll try to minimize and deny that the increase is happening. Do what you did with marijuana arrests, where you complain, where you assert that it's possibly due to arresting bias, even though that's not how we measure crime. We measure crime in reports, and then we do victimization surveys, and then we have homicide statistics. We're actually really good at measuring crime. So pointing out arresting bias is a denial.
Well, wait a
tactic.
second. You just said like we're really good at measuring crime, but
Yes.
if you see the statistics are trending down, they're really that's not.
I didn't say. I
relevant.
didn't.
He didn't say that because we are good at measuring crime, we don't need to measure crime in order to understand crime. Is that what you heard, Sam? We're really good at measuring crime. Therefore, we should be able to predict the future.
What?
That's not how that works.
Say they're nothing. I said that they're there, but they're within a range that we have now gotten into a new normal. So they're good. I'm always going to root for crime to go down. But what I'm interested in is getting to that all-time low way back in time in that far-off year of 2019. And I think you have to institute the policies that existed in 2019. We haven't even talked about incarceration. You know that prison population is declining in the United States of America, and that also seems to be tied to the increase in crime.
Interesting. Oh, Democratic Poop City has an amazing idea, guys. We should make crime legal.
What?
Maybe not. What, you want to come over here? Come on. Welcome to Morty. Yeah, a little bit of a paradox, eh? A little bit of a paradox.
Not in Connecticut.
What?
Not in Connecticut in terms of population decreasing, or
No, not in Connecticut in terms of as their prison population has dropped dramatically. They have instituted all these reforms, and crime is also dropping dramatically in Connecticut. How do you explain that?
Maybe things in Connecticut are not like they are in New York City or San Francisco or LA or Chicago or any of these places. Like anything was saying, 2 weekends ago, 45 people were shot in Chicago. Last weekend, 40 people were shot in Chicago. This is obviously a trend. I mean, crime is fine in Chicago. Is 40 less than 45 or not? I mean, come on. Let's be honest. Let's be serious. If we're going to have a conversation about crime, then let's deal with facts and not feelings. Okay? That is Sam's argument. This is exactly Sam's argument. Yeah. The lower number is good. So that's good. Good thing is good.
I would have to look up the crime stats for the state of for Connecticut, because you tell me that a 4% decrease after a dramatic increase is a dramatic drop, and that's just not true. But I'll look it up.
Well, let me just pull this up. I have this.
And by pull this up, I mean ask somebody who knows better than me behind the camera to find something here that's going to give me something to say to you that doesn't make me look stupid, or at least makes all the audience forget that I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Somewhere here, this story about Connecticut. It's pretty dramatic. People are pretty excited in Connecticut, my understanding is.
Thank you for stopping by, Celibate Scorpion. No longer celibate and happily married. Well, I assume, but congratulations once again. Good to see ya. You have a good one, girl.
Here, let me get that for you. You can look that
Quick,
up too.
quick,
I think
send
it's
it
a
over.
pretty well-known
Send it over,
story.
bro.
I'm surprised that I anticipated.
And this
that
is
you
the
would know
vamping.
about that
This is
one.
the vamping. Oh my God. This is what you guys need to pay attention to when people are talking. He is trying to make a gotcha point, but he doesn't have the information. So what does he do? He's like, well, just, I guess while you're thinking about this, I actually know how about, like, just on and on. And then he finally gets it, acts like he's had it the whole time. Look at this.
Here, let me get that for you.
Okay. 2.
You can look that
Three,
up too. I think it's a pretty
4,
well-known story.
5,
I'm surprised that you
6,
I
7,
anticipated that
8,
you would know about that.
9,
one.
10,
I don't know every
11,
single state in the
12,
union offhand.
13,
Okay.
14,
I mean, Connecticut's right
15,
next door to us.
16,
Okay.
17,
Um,
18, 19, 20,
where's my
21,
Connecticut story?
22, 23,
Bear with me
24,
one second. In
25,
the meantime,
26, 27,
What's that?
28,
Bradley sending it. to
Oh,
you.
okay.
Hey, we got a resident historian, Frosthound. Welcome to the party. If you missed Monday's stream, please definitely go check that out. Frosthound did a lot of the heavy lifting. We were talking about Ukraine and how we got there and what we think is going to happen. Very, very interesting conversation and a very knowledgeable dude. Welcome to the party, Frosthound. Glad to see ya. Indie Film says, to be fair, I just made up the numbers to make a point. Yep. I mean, that's pretty democratic of you. I love how he keeps saying, I'm talking nationally. I'm talking nationally. And now I'm talking about Connecticut. I'm talking about Connecticut. Yeah. He's talking about whatever he wants to talk about that will be in his favor. This is the opposite of a good faith conversation. And it is a perfect example of all the things in one place that you need to look out for when you're having these conversations so that you don't either make people who have bad ideas look good to those who don't know better, or get swindled yourself. We're all, nobody's perfect and nobody knows everything. So we certainly can be swindled by people who are not the best people. I mean, you guys know that. You already know what I'm going to say. I was convinced. I was brainwashed into voting for Hillary Clinton. And if that can happen, all bets are off. You have to be vigilant. And the film goes on to say, I bet that Sam guy dyes his beard right down the middle. Looks like it. Yep. I would put money on that. Hey, we got Ayush in the building. Welcome to the party. So I hope y'all are having a good time. Indeed, we are even better now that you are here. Welcome to the party.
Violent crime in 2021 down 43% since 2012. Reported crime, mostly burglaries, fell by 29% during that period.
Say what? Welcome to the party.
But get me that. Get me the. I had. Oh wait, here it is. Sorry. This is from. This is
any
from
day
yesterday, now. July 27th. In 1999. Connecticut had so many people in prison, had to send 500 of them to be incarcerated to Virginia. That's part of the.
This super chat says $5 for some clown makeup for Sam Seder. What a loser. Melton Mind Media said Sam is looking at Emma like, type faster, bitch. Pretty much. Kerm says, I guess you could say this debate was buckets of fun. I mean, just replace the F with a C and the N with an M. Good one. Yep. I did vote for Hillary. That one. And again, just goes to show I don't hide from that. I'm certainly not proud of it. It is the most shameful thing I've ever done. But it shows that any one of us, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are, it doesn't matter how much you pay attention, it doesn't matter any of this stuff, that if you're not vigilant about all of this stuff all of the time, there are people who are trying to convince you of the BS from whatever angle. They're always trying to screw with you, and they will win if you don't stay defensive. Unwanted Foe said he's bringing up a 1999 stat for what? To try to make some obscure point? To try to bring up something that Sean hasn't thought about in 10 years? Indie Film says, what the hell does that stat mean? They had to send 500 to Virginia. Maybe they only had one prison and that held 200 people. Yeah, exactly. It's so far irrelevant that exactly, Ziggs. Data picking. There you go. Thank you. I was going to say it in a much longer way, but that's exactly what it is. So the meme will never die and I will not apologize. I don't think I've ever heard that before. So shout out to you. Any film said never voted for Clinton, but I have had fantasies about Chelsea. Let's keep. I mean, I don't know if that's. You might be a little past the age gap for that to be appropriate, but we'll keep that. We're among friends. Nobody's gonna know. Don't worry about it. Melton My Media said, let's was just chilling in Cedar Rapids at the time. We forgive you. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. We all make mistakes. We all have to learn from them. That's what matters. Nobody's going to make zero mistakes, but it only matters if you can learn from it. Otherwise, you're a loser.
The story there. The state's rate of 155 people in prison per 100,000 residents is now the 9th lowest in the country, well below the national average of 350 people per 100,000. Violent crime decreased 43% from 2012 to 2021. Property crime sank 29% during the same period. The state unleashed a range of changes. This is under Governor Malloy in 2011.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's a long-term trend. State unleashed a range of changes, including repealing the death penalty, bumping the age at which juveniles could be charged as adults from 16 to 18 for most crimes. I think you were against that one in New York. Eliminating some
Spit it out, bro.
guidelines that affected.
All right, he's not going to do it. So I'm going to shout out Frosty Guns, a.k.a. Frosttown, with a $5 super chat. And of course, that means every single super chat comes with a treat for Morty. And now we have dual sponsors. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And a big shout out to our other sponsor, Indie Film. You guys are now tied. Thank you. I really, really do appreciate it, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What does Frosty Gun say? Here's the first payment to the fund to Found the Force. You read Starship Troopers, as well as Civ 6 that said, I'd love to talk about philosophy. I definitely will do. Thank you, thank you, thank you very, very much. Any film said, wait, he's talking about just Connecticut right now again? I'm not sure. I'm going to run that back because I was waiting for a moment to shout out Frosty Guns here, but we're going to run this back and figure out what the hell he is saying. Thank you again to Frosty Guns 55. All right, let's run this.
This is under 9% increase, 50 lowest, 150. Part of the story there. The state's rate of 155 people in prison per 100,000 residents is now the 9th lowest in the country, well below the national average of 350 people per 100,000. Violent crime decreased 43% from 2012 to 2021. Property crime sank 29% during the same period. The state unleashed a range of changes. This is under Governor Malloy in 2011. So
Please never, ever apologize for saying hello, and certainly never apologize for giving me money. I very much appreciate it. And we flowing, we partying, we having a good time, and we are glad you are here, brother. Thank you very much.
So, I mean, it's a long-term trend. State unleashed a range of changes, including repealing the death penalty, bumping the age at which juveniles could be charged as adults from 16 to 18 for most crimes. I think you were against that one in New York. Eliminating some sentencing guidelines that affected predominantly people of color.
Okay, so I do think we're talking about Connecticut.
They have now been able to close, I think, a bunch of prisons. He said, this is Malloy.
What is your point,
now,
bro?
A chancellor of the University of Maine system. Not only had the state built too many prisons, but had a mix of old buildings and new prisons built for maximum punishment instead of facilities where people could be rehabilitated. In 2016, Malloy, they went to prisons in Germany and they came back and they did this. I would imagine you would hate this. It led to the creation of a true unit at a correctional facility, truthfulness to oneself and others, respectfulness towards the community, understanding and elevating into success. There was all programs to mentor people, and they have been sending less people to prison and they have less crime.
So why would you think I would hate a rehabilitation program?
It just seems super soft.
No, first of all, I want to do smart things on crime. I don't want to just be cruel for no reason.
It seems soft, so you probably wouldn't like it. What are you saying, bro? What are you saying? Frosty Gun says, when I speak to my pet leftists, they often bring up things that don't matter, like how I bring up grooming. They bring up some Republican that wants teens to marry. That is the whataboutism. Yep, we know it well. They will try to take anything and connect it to anything else. This is how they use the semantic obfuscation. Because if you're talking about grooming, well, that's in the umbrella of love and sex, and so is LGBT, and so then it goes into that. And now we're talking about the church, and they're not interested in your opinions. They're interested in winning. Wanted Foe said now he's just being like smock. Help me out, smock. I'm bad at this. What game is that? I'm trying to think about it, but what does smock mean?
If you told
I
me,
think
if you
that's
told
good to hear.
anybody in this country that you could take a criminal and make them a productive member of society, they would sign up for that easy, like
Do you
obviously.
think
But the
that
problem is
overly
problem
policing areas?
is that rehabilitation programs
Mm.
have bad data around them.
Gotcha.
One of the things that I'll actually commend London Breed for over in San Francisco is in a recent emergency crime bill, she actually pushed for, studying the way that these programs work. Now, in terms of the state of Connecticut, they might have had the crime drop, according to you. I'll take your word for it. But I do want to point out that the report that you're highlighting, a big editor's note in it, is that it glosses over the fact that clearance rates have actually dropped in the state of Connecticut. It was 16.7% going into 2020, and now it's 23.4%. So it's had a dramatic increase in clearance.
So remember, the clearance rate is of all of the crimes that they know about. How many are they? What's the word? Not prosecuting. Convict. How many convictions of all the crimes do they get? So they're talking about 14 to 25, which is a good thing.
In the unsolved crimes.
Okay.
So there are problems, but yeah, not like everything has a marginal utility. So just because increasing prison population to a certain point can reduce crime doesn't mean you will continually benefit in crime reductions just by arbitrarily increasing the prison population.
Yeah, Frosty says the problem I have is I can condemn those Republicans as well as the church, but they won't denounce the organization of the LGBT. Nope. And I mean, and not all gays coming from the local furry. And yeah, Frosty is a furry, and we welcome him here. I know that if St. Michael was here, despite the fact that he is saying these things, that he would not be accepted. And that's just not how we roll here. If you are trying to fight everybody who doesn't agree exactly with what you think, you are going to lose at life. I think it's kind of weird to be a furry, but you know what? There's a lot of things that I do that y'all probably find weird. As long as we can get along, as long as we can respect each other as humans, who cares? And the same goes for whether you're a furry, whether you're gay, whether you're trans. As long as you're not trying to push a weird ideology on children, then we can have a normal conversation.
By sending less people to prison and crime reducing, I don't know if there's a causality there, but it seems to be a long-term trend. You're saying that impacts the clearance rates?
No, I just said that their clearance rates are up. It's not all rosy. I'm looking at this like Lamont.
Well, but
why
would that affect their clearance rates?
Well, I didn't say well, maybe some of their reforms or losing officers like nationwide trends would affect their clearance rate. I didn't say decreasing the prison population did. You just cited all this positive data from the state of Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
I pull up the report that you're referring to, and they're like, listen, there is a caveat. The police are actually less productive in the state of Connecticut, which could be attributed to some, not all the reforms. I'm not saying the prison population reduction necessarily makes officer clearance rate going down. I'm just pointing out that this is happening. Like
exactly. All I'm saying is, look, this is a thing that's happening that undercuts your argument. So if you're, I'm not saying that this fixes everything because this thing is true, but you're making an argument and this fact undercuts that. But you're just not going to address it because your audience is too stupid to realize that you're not going to address it. Indie Film said, Sam's got it backwards. He said, by sending less people to prison means you have lower crime. How about you have lower crime, so you send less people to prison? Exactly. And the fact that we don't have less crime. We don't have less crime from, especially if we're talking on a legitimate 5-year period. We don't have less crime. So we shouldn't be sending less people to prison. We should be sending more people to prison. Because the people who are those people are committing crimes and then getting let out and then committing more crimes and driving up prices and making things dangerous. It's not that complicated unless you have this dogmatic belief that any criminal is must have some reason. There must be some reason that the Republicans did this or the conservatives did that. It's just fighting to find anything, grasping at straws, knowing there is nothing there. Frosty said it should be condemned and mocked. Furries are the worst. Well, that's on you. I don't know what it is, so I'll say it's weird, and I'll stop there. Frosty goes on. That said, even if I am signed under that banner, I will never condone the LGBT that would hurt children. That's all we ask for. That's all we ask for. Exactly, Daniel. That's why we like you. You have a level head, kind of. Because Frosty goes on to say, it's like how sending people to prison is trying to oppress people. It's just trying to keep a social order. Watching the people just stealing makes me sick. I agree. I mean, and it's hard to watch, but what's harder for me personally to watch is to watch people make excuses for it. There is no like political pundit or any personality in politics in the last 5 years that would have been able to say, looting, rioting, good. Looting, rioting? Well, why don't you talk about wage theft? I don't know, because maybe people who are having their wages stolen are not, being burned alive potentially by people setting stores on fire so they can steal things that they don't actually need. We can talk about wage theft, but not going to kill people. Meldemai Media said they're not just arresting people for crimes they're just not arresting people for crimes under $1,000. The cops won't even make a report if it's not over that. Martian said, sometimes I end up thinking stocks and pillories had a purpose. Imagine that. The film says, if I had a Bigfoot costume, can I be considered a furry? Just asking for a friend. I'm going to field that to Frosty. Frosty says, I really need to proofread these. Isn't trying to oppress people. Okay, so let's say it's like I got you what you meant. Isn't trying to oppress people. I got you. But if you want to answer that one, I do not have the knowledge.
How does reducing the number of incarcerated individuals inhibit the?
Did I not just say I'm not saying that reducing the prison
you just brought it up when I was talking about some.
So then listen, he did bring it up to say that I don't think that.
You were talking about Connecticut overall, and you were painting a very rosy picture of the state of Connecticut.
I think the crime being down 25% is pretty rosy, even if the clearance rates are not as high. Because
I'm very theoretically,
there's two reasons why you want higher clearance rates, right? One is presumably because you want to take people off the streets who have committed
wrong. Sorry about that.
A, because they've committed a crime, but B, you don't want them to commit a second crime. And B, obviously, for some type of closure for the victims. But we do see significant drops in crime as we have less incarcerated people, and these reforms, which you had said you had a problem with. But I
do have a problem.
Let's get to the causes of crime. Let's get to the causes of crime. I think we've examined this.
Well, Sam, again, I said this a million times. Pillars in a building. You can knock down one pillar, but if Connecticut has other things institutionally that are working to reduce crime, then that might not bring down the whole building.
So in this instance,
but nice pulling out one specific state after coming down on me for doing that about cities and all that.
It was just an article I found that was in the news 2 days ago, so that's why it was there. But
great. Frosty says wage theft is a white collar crime and bad, but open theft is breaking down the social order and normalizing the behavior. We will see more crime in the next 10 years because we are not stopping this. I agree. And I do want to point out again the point that Sean made about how, while it's important to talk about violent crime and how that is very relevant, but not to brush off white collar crime because he was talking about a murder is going to ruin one person's life, that whole family's life, but Bernie Madoff ruined thousands of people's lives, if not more. Just something to keep in mind. I thought it was an interesting thing that he brought up, but yeah, completely agree. I mean, I don't think that they're the same conversation, and trying to obfuscate that by bringing a different conversation into that is disingenuous. Ayush says, why make laws if you're not beholden to them? Have you seen the video trending on Twitter of a 7-Eleven owner owning the thug who was looting? Michael Knowles, Tim Pool, and Ian Miles posted it. No, I haven't. But if one of the mods wants to find that, I would definitely like to take a peek at that.
Well, let's talk about the other thing that you wanted to discuss, and that was the excusing of crime by blaming poverty.
Yes.
Now,
This is his. Not every criminal is Aladdin.
I will admit that I did not see this exchange with you and Emma, and I did not ask her. I've never heard her say that I excuse crime
She did.
because of poverty.
Yep.
I would suspect that she would argue, at least in part, that crime is a function of poverty, right? Not you get out of jail free if you're poor and you've committed a crime, you live in poverty, but rather that crime is a function of poverty. I would imagine that's what she was saying. And
no, specifically when I brought up that 327 people in the city of New York are arrested for a third of the shoplifting arrests in the city of New York.
Shout out to Nick. Welcome to the party. Hope you are doing well. Welcome. All right, so we got this this clip here. Let's take a look at what we got. Hold on. Make sure we're here, and we're here. Yeah.
Why are you getting evidence? Why are you getting evidence? I'll put my strap on your bitch ass.
Damn.
Why are you getting evidence?
Aladdin. So shameful that he needs to do this to survive. I mean, the Swisher Sweets. If you don't have the Swisher Sweets, then like, how are you gonna live?
Hey, let me get a Swisher though. Can I get a stripper? Hey, can I get a Swisher? Let me get a Swisher.
This is crazy.
Hey, just let him go. There's nothing you can do.
There is nothing you can do.
But it's nothing you can do.
He's absolutely right. There is nothing. There's nothing. Because if anything, if he does anything, we saw exactly what happened with was it Jose Alba, the guy who the elderly man who he was working at the he had his bodega or shop or whatever. Woman came in, couldn't pay for a bag of chips. So she goes out, gets her boyfriend. Boyfriend comes back in, goes behind the counter, starts beating the crap out of this 60-year-old man. 60-year-old man, like a boss, takes a box cutter and stabs the dude. He dies. And then the old man gets charged. Why? I mean, I'm a Dutch guy myself, but I get it. Maldemar said, Big Crit Pimpin' is his kids. Those need those Newports. Absolutely. I mean, what are you going to do without Newports? Martian said, syntaxes are at criminal levels. Facts. And Frosty said, I sent that live I was on to a few professors. The head of the history department liked it. And my lefty professor had some words that said we could bring her on or be an interesting chat. Oh, definitely. I would definitely be interested in that. Very cool. Very cool. Okay, we're holding up. We're waiting a minute. What's going on? What are we waiting for? I'm going to play this while we're waiting.
It's like they're not going to do nothing. You just have to just...
And insurance,
you have insurance?
Insurance ain't going to cover that level of shoplifting.
You have insurance? What? Did you have insurance? No, it hurts you?
Of course. Even if you do have insurance, you still have to pay deductibles. Like, to get any of this covered by insurance, you probably have to pay at least $10,000 out of pocket.
God damn. Ain't nothing you can do that. There's nothing you can do, man. Until you call police. Ain't nothing you can do, man, until police come in. Hey, don't. Hey, ain't nothing you can do, man. Don't do that. Don't do that, man. Don't do that.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, God damn. Whoa. Let's go. This is definitely demonetized now. Oh, my God. Fuck around and find out. Fuck around and find out.
Whooping your ass.
Yeah, boy, let's go. That is, I mean, oh, sorry, Mark. That is, I mean, it's unfortunate because I don't think that vigilante justice is a good thing. But like they said a million times, there's nothing you can do except for this. And I really, in general, I don't like violence at all. I mean, outside of, sanctioned violence like UFC, but I don't like that. But this is the world we live in. But Sam wants to say, oh well, they're all just they're all just so sad and they need to survive. And no. Daniel said he laid his hands on him and gets the stick. I love that. I love seeing the karmic justice in that, because the brazen attitude with like, look, I can get away with this. I know the cops aren't going to do anything. So I'm counting each dollar and I'm going to go $999.99 and then I'm out of here. You can't do anything. And if you try to stop me, I'll shoot you and you'll probably get in trouble for it. And he's probably right. But the stick, who was talking about? Oh, it was Frosty talking about the pokey stick. The pokey stick. It is back. Unwanted Foe said it's becoming a necessary evil since the government has abandoned its people in so many places. Yeah, this is the world we've been living in. And with people like Sam Seder, it's not going to get better anytime soon. Fortunately, with people like Sean, might be able to curb that descent into fiery dystopia by just a little bit, just long enough that maybe I can get myself in front of a few people and be like, hey guys, this is how we fix everything. And everybody's like, oh my God, Lutch, you're a genius. I never thought about that before. We just fixed America. You're amazing. It's going to go down like that. I'm telling you.
Which represents over.
All right, so let's see where we were with this.
Specifically, when I brought up that 327 people in the city of New York are arrested for a third of the shoplifting arrests in the city of New York, which represents over 6,000 arrests. She said that those people are the most desperate and they're doing it because they need to survive or to sustain their lives.
So in other words, that poverty...
So that sounds like an excuse to me.
Yep.
Yes, that would be excusing crime with the poverty excuse.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it sounds like an argument as to what is driving crime. But like I say,
okay, fine. I will give you that. I will give you that, saying, okay, that these people are desperate and that's why they're doing this. They're not, but let's just say that is the case. That does not excuse what you are doing. It is still wrong. It is still against the law. It is still causing all of these issues. So whether, like, that is irrelevant. Your place in life is irrelevant to whether you should be allowed to do an armed robbery. Like, what are we talking about? Milton Mind Media said, I don't know if this is vigilantism. Yep, that's a good point. That's a good point. Thank you for giving me all the justification I need to really just, eat that up. Eat it up. Do we want to see it one more time? Just the end? Let's just see it one more time.
Hey, why are you getting...
Don't do that. Don't do that, man. Don't do that.
Get up. Now that it's self-defense, in my mind, not vigilantism at all. Thank you, Melting Mind Media. Let's go. Okay, I'm sorry.
Whooping his ass down. That's called whooping your ass.
I'm sorry, but I don't have sympathy. I do not have the sympathy. You're not going to get it from me. Any film said, if the property tax on my car is less than $1,000, can I not pay it? Of course not. Because that is, that would be white collar. But if you go into a store with a gun, or if you go into a store and set it on fire and steal stuff less than $1,000, then, you might get a standing ovation. How brave of you. to understand the systemic hardships that you've been through, and to be strong enough to live and survive. That might honestly, genuinely be the way that they look at it. Nick said, apparently self-defense is a crime now, but assaulting an innocent person is not a crime. Go figure. Yep. Marcia said that was beautiful. Unwanted Foe said, hope he learns from that life's worth of an ass whipping. I hope so too, but you never really know. Frosty said, so the thing that makes me so angry at this is the same reason I hate people who double park. It's the basic rules that we have to follow. And if I put in a small amount of effort that it takes to be an upstanding, normal person in our society, it really drives me mad that people can't do the same.
Bingo.
This is why I just, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, I put out a video from the Cartnarks. And it was more of a conversation, but usually their videos are, just going around shopping plazas, the parking lot, and enforcing the shopping cart theory. Again, if you're not familiar, there's no consequences for not putting your shopping cart away, and there's no reward for putting your shopping cart away. So it's the perfect litmus test of morality, because if you do it because it's the right thing to do, and if you don't do it, it's because you're not, you don't care, and you're going to get away with whatever you can get away with. And but it's the same kind of thing. I was just listening to something this morning where a guy, so it's this thing that I'm addicted to on TikTok, something they do in Texas, where on the radio with Ryan Seacrest, it's called Second Date Update. So if you go on a date with somebody and then they ghost you, or there's no second date or whatever, you call the radio station calls the person, and they're like, hey, what happened? And so guy calls the radio station, went on a date, went to the movies, and the girl didn't call him back. So he calls the radio station calls her, and she's like, well, he was bragging about buying child tickets and says he does this all the time, and said he even would buy a veteran's ticket. And I was like, I don't go to the movies that often, and I see that there's $3-4 difference. And I just think that, they put the kiosk there for a reason, because they don't want to have to pay, people to stand there. And I don't like that, but that's not justification for me to cheat the system. And all of the other costs that everybody else has to endure with going to the movies is not a cheap thing. Everybody who cheats the system a little bit makes it worse for everybody else. And so, thank you, Meltamind Media. Definitely go check that out. Melty, if you want to drop the link, that would be awesome too. I mean, it's just, some people don't have that mind of I want to do what is right. Some people just, whatever makes me feel good. That's all that matters. Shout out to Frosty. Says, stop trying to be so goddamn reasonable. And seconded by Martian. Well said. All right, where were we on this?
Excuse to me.
Yep.
So yes, that would be excusing crime with the poverty excuse.
To me, it sounds like an argument as to what is driving crime, but I did
in a different tab or after the stream.
Like I say, I'm not familiar with that.
I argued, and I'll argue here.
What do you think?
That the fact that we're not able to hold repeat offenders is what is causing that. If you locked up those 327 people, guess what?
They wouldn't be able.
The retail theft arrest gone.
Imagine that. So people who are doing crimes, if we take their ability away to do the crimes, they won't be able to do the crimes.
What?
Crazy.
Because they keep committing the crime.
How many people would you have to lock up to make sure that you got the right 327?
Well, it would be for that specific
327. That's a dumb question. You arrest them when they shoplift. I mean, am I stupid? Did I miss the question?
Lock up to make sure that you got
gone because they keep committing the crime.
How many people would you have to lock up to make sure that you got the right 327?
Why would you get the wrong 327? I don't understand the question. If we know that these people are doing the thing, why would we get anybody else? Am I stupid, guys? Help me out here. Am I missing what the point of his question, or is he just like everything else? Yeah, any film, I completely agree. I can never bring myself to be shady and cheat systems like that, especially when it's $4. Like, okay, we may or may not pay for the UFC pay-per-views. That's $80 a month plus $50 a year. Not that into it. I love it, but I can't afford that. So, there's give and take here. But the UFC ain't hurting for money, first of all. Certainly the bodega or whatever, the convenience store that, or was it 7-Eleven that was in, certainly not the same thing. And we can play those games as where's the line. But clearly they are different. Clearly they are different. Shout out to Melton My Media, said, like the video, sub and become a member to support Morty and the Indian Jesus to keep our bellies full and very much empty right now. So that would help. Indie Film said the question is nonsensical. You lock up the people committing the crimes. Yep. Daniel says, because in Sam's mind, there's no such thing as 100% proof. Oh, okay. Now I'm getting it. Yeah, he's not aware of, the fact that everything is recorded these days. Gotcha. Okay. So Frosty kind of saying the same thing. So if is it wrong to pirate something if it's not offered in your country? Like, you'd buy it if you could, but it's not being offered to you. I say no. I say no. I think that, again, no, if you can't get it, then it's wrong. But I will still maybe or maybe not pirate things that I can get here, because I prefer not to stream them, or like using a VPN to watch something that's only available on Netflix. There's nothing wrong with that. But like, I can get a movie, whatever movie. We just watched Robin Hood Men in Tights in the Discord last night, which you should definitely join. Great movie, great time. And the notion is I could pay for that, but there's a certain style of that. Especially if you grew up in as the Napster generation, then it was immoral to be stealing from the musicians, but also the technology was at a place where the system needed to be changed. And so, am I excusing it? Am I making excuses? Yeah, kind of. But ultimately, I don't see them. I can't put even I can't put putting your shopping cart back. I can't put buying a child's movie ticket instead of an adult. I can't put pirating stuff in the same category as what we just saw from that tweet. I mean, that's just insane. Indie Film said, being a guy who would like to make movies and make money off it, I say pirating anything is wrong. Well, we're gonna have to agree to disagree.
Well, it would be for that specific issue, it would be the 327 that are arrested a grand total of 6,000 times. So it'd be the 327.
So when would you lock them up and throw away the key to save from the shoplifting?
Well, it wouldn't be. It would be charge them seriously, hold them in waiting for their trial.
Mm-hmm. Notice how he slipped in the intuition pumping of. So when is it okay to lock them up and throw away the key? What are you talking about? We're talking about a reasonable punishment, not just, hey, you have to go and be inconvenienced for a while, and then you can go right back out on the street. That's not a justifiable punishment, as proven by the fact that they're still committing the crimes. Ayush said, there's something to be said about the local government censorship. Internet is powerful because it allows us to bypass censorship. There you go. Martian Overlord said, melted aliens and Bigfoot have an innate power to blind themselves, just like the Loch Ness Monster. I'm going to assume you guys are having your own conversation.
And then convict them, prosecute them seriously, yes.
But you're saying if we lock up those 327, essentially,
Yes.
and don't let them out, we're going to have less shoplifting. That's what you're saying, right? All right. Now,
obviously,
that's what the data says.
When do you know?
No, that's what logic says. If people are doing a thing, and you stop them from doing the thing, then the thing won't happen anymore. That's just logic. Yeah, if shoplift guys, yeah. So that's what he's trying to make Sean seem like. If you have to steal a loaf of bread to feed your family, then we should kill you. No, that is not at all what anybody suggested ever. But yeah, go ahead and strawman everybody, and show yourself to be a shady, slimy POS.
That it's those 327. The first time they shoplift?
No, I mean, if you, well,
So first time you shoplift, then you pay a fine. Second time you shoplift, you get a weekend in jail. Third time, then you get 5 years. Just off the top of my head. Work for you, work for me. All right.
I'm talking about repeat offenders. So it would be when
Okay.
they have repeat
That's what I'm
offenses.
asking. How many? So two.
Three.
Two shoplifting offenses gets you locked up for as
Well,
long
first
as
of all,
you
we
want.
should prosecute shoplifting and retail theft seriously from the jump. The idea that this is a victimless crime is nonsensical. But let's say if you're arrested for 5 times, which by the way, again, it's 6,000 spread over 327 people, then we don't let you out without bail. Like a judge would be able to have judgment to determine that you are a repeat offender and you are held
You're held in like where? Where would we put him in? Like a Rikers or something?
in a
5 times?
jail.
Yes.
And there's no
Now he's going to go to the same exact argument that Emma made on the culture war. Do you know how many people die in Rikers? You think it's justifiable for death so that somebody, because somebody shoplift? No. But if you don't want to go to a place where people are dying, then it's probably a good reason to not do the thing that's going to send you to where people are dying.
no dollar figure, right? We just
Well, aren't you against cash bail because, poverty?
yeah,
Based.
I am against cash bail.
Yeah. So I would want the judges right now, they can't assess dangerousness in the state of New York. I would want them to
Are
be able to
shoplifters
assess.
dangerous? According to you?
Yeah, they're repeat offenders, and eventually a bunch of these people, when confronted, get into physical altercations.
Like the one we just saw. And again, I don't know if you saw the video that I dropped covering when Sean was covering the fact that people are now starting to light stores on fire. There's a clip where there's a young toddler girl. She couldn't be more than 5 years old in a Dollar Tree that grown men set on fire so that they can cause a distraction. Why need a distraction anyway? I don't know, because as we just saw, you can just walk in and take whatever you want. But they're setting buildings on fire with people inside. And yeah, if you go look at that video, somebody legitimately said, well, what about wage theft? Like, come on, guy. Daniel said, I'm not dangerous if I run in and shoplift with the gun. Sam says so. Well, if Sam says it, it must be true. Ayush said, only the poorest suffer the most in a lawless society. Well said, Ayush. Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
And people have been killed over that. I've covered multiple stories of Home Depot workers being killed. We find out that the person behind the theft that led to killing that worker was arrested a bunch of times for these so-called petty crimes. You could have got them off the streets, and then somebody dies over it. Some poor person who works, for whatever, $15 an hour at Home Depot gets killed by somebody who wanted a power drill. So yeah, I want those people off the streets for sure.
So
I said, shit. Me too.
what do you think drives crime?
What I think drives crime?
Yeah.
Well, I
what-
think
Selfishness, lack of accountability, all these kinds of things. So wage theft is like if you work, like let's say you're supposed to work 40 hours and the boss asks you to stay an extra half an hour to do something and doesn't give you overtime. That's wage theft. Let's say you, things like that where you're working, but you're not getting paid for the actual time that you're working. That is wage theft. And it is actually the largest form of theft because it happens on a tiny, tiny, tiny scale to many, 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 many people. And I'm not saying we shouldn't address that. I'm not saying that that's not fair. I'm not saying that that's okay. But it's a very different conversation than violent armed robberies in organized shoplifting thingies, you know what I mean? Melty says he practiced by an employer if not paying the proper wages due to a worker or workers, especially through paying inordinately low salaries or failing to abide by employment law and regulations. Yeah, that's wage theft.
I think public policy has a big impact. There are people that are opportunistic that will commit crime if they think there are no consequences, whether they be social or whether they be through the criminal justice system.
And again, this is the shopping cart theory.
I've broken this down. You can think of it as a pyramid with 3 layers. The lowest part of the pyramid is the criminal justice system, the actual consequences. And the reason why this is one of the lowest deterrents is and by the way, I'm not making this up. This comes from criminal justice theory. The reason why this is one of the lowest deterrents.
I was assuming I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt that you're not.
But I'm just saying it's not my.
Yeah, that was a weird phrasing. Like I mean, don't say you're not making things up, because then we're going to assume, well, is he making it up? Why did you say you're not making it up?
My theory. But the deterrence doesn't really work. It's not really that effective because most people, when they commit a crime, don't think they're going to get caught. The next stage in that pyramid would be the social consequences.
So yeah, I mean, Andy, that's then if that's the agreement that you have, then it's not wage theft. So you're being paid a salary, so you get paid by the year, and within that year, you're expected to do X, Y, and Z. This is more by hourly workers, or again, if you're paid salary and for 40 hours a week, and you work beyond that without getting overtime, without getting whatever, and it's fine that there's a lot of time. I mean, I barely ever leave again, for those of you who don't know, I'm a dog trainer. So, and I go to people's house to train their dogs. Rarely do I leave within 60 minutes. You guys know me. I'm chatty and I love dogs. So, as long as I don't have a client coming up, usually I'm there for at least an hour, usually, an extra 20 minutes or so, just chatting, just, because I care about the dogs. And so technically, I could say that is wage theft, but because that's not an expectation, then it wouldn't fall under that. The boss would just say, well, then just leave. But if I was expected to stay, then it might be a little bit different there. Every 8 weeks on call 24/7 for a week. That's a lot. But again, that's within the job description. So it's things that you are supposed to be paid for that you're not paid for.
So if people will treat you like a pariah if you are arrested and convicted of a crime, that is a stronger deterrent against you committing crimes. And then the top of the pyramid, the number one thing is if you believe that the law is moral and or just, that is what's going to prevent you from criminality.
So again, he said the 3 layers. The bottom layer was criminal justice. The middle layer was the social, and the number one is what you think is moral. And do you think the laws are moral?
Okay. And so
okay. And so you just said something kind of coherent. So I don't really have a response to that. So we're just going to move right on by and see if I can trap you in something else.
If you live in a society where
we live in a society,
everybody lives around you lives in extreme poverty. Do you think that numbers, I think, was it 2 and 3 on your pyramid? I mean, in other words, so what would you do if I put you in charge of social policy, and you could be king for a day, or a couple of weeks or whatever it is?
Spit it out, bro.
What would you do? What would you do to what do you think the most effective thing we could do to fight? Like you say, there's always going to be some folks who, I don't know, living on the edge and committing crimes. But broadly speaking, what would you do?
I don't know. Probably all the things I just suggested.
How do you mean?
Well, you just worked out a pyramid for us, and so put that into practice if that's the pyramid that you believe in.
Again, how do you mean?
Yeah, it's a dumb question. What are you asking? Oh, well, you just said there's 3 different types of whatever. And so if you were the king, how would you solve everything?
What?
Today, Junior. Oh, I should add that one.
I just told you what prevents people.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I meant to read this. Yeah, Andy Film's absolutely right. Legalizing crime does not help a society and does not help poor people get ahead. What does help is legalizing things that are illegal, which should not be illegal, like smoking weed. Yeah, all that for what would you do if you could do anything at all? What would you do?
People from committing crimes. How would I put that into practice? Are you talking about from a law enforcement point of view? It would depend entirely where I am, because crime is different depending on the city. It's very much down to the local municipality. So if I was designing an intervention for New York City, it would be completely different than an intervention for the city of St. Louis or the city of Chicago.
There you go.
So again, what do you mean?
Okay, what would you do in New York City, let's say, to deal with crime? I mean, you're I
arrest the people who are doing the crimes. Is that not what this whole conversation has been about? What is this?
Today, Junior.
I guess when we're looking at the causes
Oh,
of
wait,
crime here, and you just laid out some type of pyramid, it sounded like you discounted the punishment one, which was the widest one, right? I mean,
Yeah,
my understanding
deterrence actually, but yes.
yeah, but that doesn't deter. You don't think that deters because people don't think they're going to get caught.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think they're going to get caught. So
Mm.
that's why
So
I'm in
it's
favor.
not a function of cops in terms of like.
No, you misunderstand. Deterrence is not that effective of a strategy from a law enforcement level, but that doesn't mean incapacitation is not an effective strategy. So
So locking up
incapacitation
more people.
would be removing repeat offenders.
I have not seen this.
And
Videos of people just pouring buckets of waters on cops in New York City? No, I have not. Is this recent or is this like from a while ago? What are we talking about?
and so locking up more people, but how would you get there? I guess is what you're talking about.
The first thing
By locking up the people who are doing the crimes.
I would do in the state of New York, because again, it is dependent on the area, is that I would get rid of bail reform law and allow judges to have judgment. I think it's ridiculous the way we operate in the city of New York. If we're concerned about people that are poor, that can't afford their bail for lower crimes, I understand that. I would reduce the bail amounts, but what I need is for the judges to be able to assess dangerousness.
Yes. So there's especially in New York, the judges are handcuffed. And they can't say, oh, you've been arrested for shoplifting 7 times in the last 5 days. You seem like somebody that, despite the fact that this one crime in a single instance, we probably wouldn't lock that person up because you've done it 7 times in 5 days. Then it's probably something that we need to deal with. So let's see, what are we looking at here? From 4 years ago. Officers doused with buckets of water. So what's going on? July 2019. So what's going on July 2019? Videos of NYPD getting doused in buckets of water. Service Monday, based on whether it was simply a prank on a hot day or a display of anti-police sentiment. Well, so I mean, this is
New tonight, outrage among NYPD union leaders and the mayor after NYPD officers were doused with buckets of water during an arrest. One large bucket even hit one of the officers in the head. Now, News 4's Michael George is live in Harlem with the details here. Michael.
Tell us, Michael, what happened
going viral.
in Harlem?
NYPD officers being disrespected on the jobs, being doused with water. Now, some people call this a prank, but the NYPD says this crossed the line.
Yeah, I mean, like it's kind of obviously not in favor of that kind of behavior, but I don't think it's as drastic as what we've been seeing with all this shoplifting.
Dangerousness. So you're only talking violent crimes.
No, as we said before, the fact that something is not inherently directly violent does not mean that it's not dangerous.
Or repeat offenders, like the original bail reform, and they've amended it to remove certain things. Didn't even factor in bail jumping as a crime that could get you held. So if you didn't show up for court,
what?
But now that's changed. When did that change?
They might have changed that specific portion, but I
good.
know they used to have aggravated vehicular manslaughter as a charge that was not bail eligible, and they did change that. So there have been some changes to it. They actually update it every year around April when the budget comes in. So I'm not exactly sure which specific crimes, but I want judges to be able to assess repeat offenders. I don't want to be in a position where they cannot hold somebody as long as they commit this crime, and then they're incentivized to recommit the same crime over and over again.
Which is exactly the situation that we are in right now. Precisely. The judges are handcuffed instead of the criminals.
So you want
he just said it. So you want he wants the judges to be able to judge. That's it.
You want, let's say, you'd be okay with
and here comes some ridiculous hypothetical.
Judge's discretion on bail if it's someone who has been arrested for 5 times on the same crime. Is that it?
Yeah, depending on the crime, of course.
Right.
If it's jaywalking, I don't care about jaywalking.
You don't think people should be arrested for jaywalking, do you?
That was
even
the point.
Ticketing, it's New York City. I mean, everybody crosses every which way, you know.
Any Film says, to be clear, I am not a fan of the police state. I said shit, me neither. But when this goes on, all respect for government is going down the drain. all respect for societal norms is going down the drain. And I don't give a flying fuck about respect for the government unless they earn it. But certainly respect for societal norms is something that is paramount to anything. That's all we have. That's all we have. All the protections that we feel that we have, any idea of safe life comes from these societal norms and the fact that the expectation that other people also want to maintain those societal norms. And that's changing. And it's scary to everybody except the majority part.
But you think that's the most important thing, bail reform?
I think bail reform is a huge deal in the state of New York, and it impacts almost every county. I believe when the governor's race was going on, we had something like
I'm just going to repeat it. I'm going to run it back because Sam tried again to get a gotcha moment, and Sean was very smart in the way that he answered it. I'm wondering if anybody knows what I'm talking about before I show it to you.
I think bail.
But you think that's the most important thing?
So he's asking, you think bail reform is the most important thing? That's a very a strong thing that we're saying. This is multifaceted, but this is the most important thing. And what does he say?
Bail reform.
I think bail reform is a huge deal in the state of New York.
I think it's a huge deal. I'm not letting you pin me down and saying because I think this is important that you're going to harp on this and only harp on that. No, it is a big deal, absolutely, but it's not necessarily the most important thing, depending on what we're talking about. Nick says, arrest criminals? But that's so simple. Do you think it would work? I don't know, but it's definitely not worth a try, right? It's definitely not worth a try.
And it impacts almost every county. I believe when the governor's race was going on, we had something like 98% of counties, or 98 out of like 101 counties. I don't remember exactly how many counties, so it might have been a percentage that saw an increase in crime.
So you discount the bottom part about deterrent on that pyramid. What was the
deterrence
second?
is the lowest.
Well. Let's slow down here. All right, because there may or may not be things that I do in my life that are not fully in compliance with the law. Allegedly, maybe, probably not, but maybe. Some, not all, but all violent. Let's say all dangerous and repeating criminals or bitches. I get what you're going though.
and one of the least effective. Yes.
I don't get why that's on the but
that's not surprising, Sam.
On the bottom you think is the least effective.
Yeah.
And then the middle one is what's the next one?
That would be like societal pressure.
Norms.
If you feel like you're going to be
Pay
an outcast
attention,
from
Sam.
your community or treated like a pariah, like the social pressure that keeps you in line.
Okay. And then social pressure, right? And how would you increase that social pressure?
Well, I think we should.
It's not something that you just that you just do. We have to have these. There you go. It's a cultural thing. So it's not about how do you do it. It's about having these conversations, understanding the roots of them, and understanding that we have to have certain opinions about certain things. That if we don't shame people who are doing organized shoplifting, then they're going to continue to do organized shoplifting. So together, collectively, we have to decide that we're not going to be okay with it. And he knows that. He knows that there's no simple, oh, well, you just do this. Because then it wouldn't be a problem. They would have done it. Excuse me. Any film said if cops are getting water poured on them, which is assault, which they cannot take action in certain neighborhoods, why should they go back? Fair enough. Daniel said, I wonder if Sam would be okay with the idea of going back to rehabilitation instead of just incarceration. I would assume so. Again, I haven't read it yet, so whoever else gets the reference, Atlas shrugged.
Do more to stigmatize criminals, for sure.
There, yeah.
We should stop doing this.
How would you stigmatize?
Well, I would
by stop doing everything that you do, Sam. That's how. Stop making excuses. Calling it as it is. Saying, hey, we don't like this. Saying, hey, this is making the law-abiding citizens, many of them just as poor and desperate as you, it's making their lives harder. Maybe if you do that and you tell that to your 1.3 million followers, might have a little bit of an effect. Who knows?
I would stop treating them like they're Aladdin, like your co-host does, where they're just like thieves with a heart of gold. I would stop like sympathizing with them and sympathize with the victims.
Okay, so we in the case of shoplifting, we should sympathize with like Walmart or something more, and
we should
sympathize with the people who need to go to that Walmart because they don't have enough money to shop at Trader Joe's or Whole Foods. I don't understand how you can be this obtuse. Like this is a masterclass in grifting. A masterclass. Pretending that you're just dumb enough to be able to understand to ask the wrong questions. That is he is masterful at it. Anyone says all these cities have abandoned the rule of law and are abandoning their own citizens. And at a certain point, it's not really a surprise why anymore. If nobody in the community cares and nobody in the government cares, then why should the cops care? And if the cops don't care, why should anybody else care? It's a circular thing where if people just care. I don't know how else to put it. Like, this stuff matters. You can pretend it doesn't for as long as you want, but eventually it's going to come to your doorstep. So stop pretending that it doesn't matter. I don't know how to make it any more straightforward than that. But people like Sam, or at least the people who follow Sam, need it broken down and spelled out. You said shoplifting, looting, and rioting only raises inflation. His problem is with capitalism. He's not considering the immense value Walmart brings to the community.
Bingo!
Exactly. Like, we can put aside for a moment the idea that Walmart is a huge conglomerate that does this, that, and puts mom and pop. That is an issue, yes. But it's enough of an issue that we should go and rob the store so that all the people in the community don't have any low prices rolled back? Is that your position? That it's Walmart, so whatevs? Really? That's what I thought when I was 14. I was like, yeah, I like the power. I was listening to Anti-Flag, and I thought it was so cool. But you're a grown-ass man who probably colors his beard. And this is how you think about the world?
Beta!
Multimedia Media said I got extra credit on the first day of school for arguing with my teacher if Atlas was a god or a titan. He was wrong and came in the next day and apologized to me and the whole class. It was the best, or he was the best. Shout out to you. There you go. Fight the power. Fight the machine. Stand up for what you believe in, and good things will happen. Opus said, exactly. It's not that Sam is obtuse. He just knows who his viewers are.
Bingo!
And he goes, the stores get robbed out of existence and move out of neighborhoods, and then they get blamed because they listen to people like Sam. Listen, so we should sympathize with Walmart? Like,
we should sympathize with like Walmart or something
Beta,
more, and
we should sympathize with the community who has to pay for that in higher prices, or the people who lose their jobs because these stores shut down. We should sympathize with these
you
people
think
that
stores
have to end
shut down
that have
because
to end up traveling first.
Excuse me? This conversation was today. There's stores closing on every Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid. There was a I don't think it was a Trader Joe's, but Dollar Tree. All of these stores are closing down. What are you talking? Like, are you a news guy? You're just ignoring that part of the news? You're gonna have a conversation about shoplifting and not read anything? Anything? Because, you know, if you're reading, that might make you right wing.
Further, due to the fact that there's less grocery stores in their area, yeah, we should sympathize with them rather than the opportunistic thieves.
okay.
Based.
And so
Based. Anyone says, yes, Walmart wants to make money. When they're losing money, they're going to do whatever it takes to make money. That's another good point. That's a good point. I mean, you're only hurting other people who are hurting. You're not hurting Walmart. They'll make it up somewhere else. It's not about Walmart. It's about the people who need Walmart.
and so you think that there's thieves out there that Emma's walking amongst, and they're all like
That Emma's
Emma,
walking amongst? No, I would never say
What?
that. I would never think she would actually.
you
live
think the
amongst
thieves are
criminals
watching
that
the
she
show? You
protects.
think the thieves are watching the show and they're going,
Yes.
it's okay.
More
No,
cops are
there's
gonna.
No, the thieves are not watching the show. The thieves are just doing whatever they want to do. The thieves are doing whatever they want to do because the white liberals who are all over the news say the type of shit that you're saying right now. So they're like, oh, all right, well, if you're not gonna, if you're not gonna do anything, then I may as well. That's what's happening.
Retire.
It's not just the majority report per se, but there's this general dismissive nature towards these retail thieves. Like you can see it on every reply in the videos. Like now there's
Has
people
that
that are
changed
definitely
over time?
against it.
Has that changed over time?
Yeah, it's become more sympathetic towards the criminals.
I think yes, people have become more sympathetic to people, and
I promise you, I did not watch that.
possibly due to the fact that we had the pandemic. So the excuse is that these
But
people
wait
are
a second,
struggling.
dude. Why was there this huge drop in crime? Why was this huge drop in crime? Why did that take place? So in 1990, for instance, let's say, or 87, people were too sympathetic to shoplifters. And then in the 90s, later in the 90s, they were less sympathetic to shoplifters. And that's why it went down.
Well, no, there is an overall sentiment change. I mean, for you to not acknowledge this is ridiculous. Like, go look at Joe Biden
Get 'em.
on the floor of the Senate pushing the crime bill and listen to the way Joe Biden talks about crime now. I'm into
Facts.
our
Was
state.
high,
Facts. Biden was all these thugs and things that I can't even say on YouTube. Frosty Gun said this is covered in Starship Troopers, something you should read. But it talks about the bands of feral kids who would rob an RP because they have never known boundaries. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Point is, crime was higher
1990s Joe Biden. Yeah, they're
1990s
passing a law. They're passing
1990s
a
Joe
law.
Biden was harsher on crime, and
Yes,
crime
yes.
began to drop
The cartel.
precipitously.
Yes. Crime started to drop or drop nationwide after that crime bill. Yes.
Oh, I see what you're saying. And then crime shot up. Like when did we start as a society? Just in the past 2 years, have we gotten more sympathetic to shoplifters?
I do think people have become more sympathetic to criminals and less sympathetic to the police. 100%.
Absolutely. When's the last time you saw a thin blue line flag? Remember how quickly things change. Remember at the beginning of the lockdowns that the nurses and frontline workers, myself, I was working retail at the time, frontline workers were the heroes. And then because so many of us either just didn't want to get the jab or had already gotten COVID and didn't want to take that risk, vilified. And then all of the good cops, as we talked about before, all of them left the force because they're not going to enforce unconstitutional BS that governors and that Washington wanted to pass down. So kinda, yeah, it has been like that. I want to vote, so they're all over my state. Yeah. Daniel says, well, even in Star Trek Next Generation, you got this utopia, but there's also characters who grew up on worlds with RP gangs. It's not a perfect society. Bad stuff. It's not a perfect society. Bad stuff still happens. And Trey's saying, "Yup, everywhere in Texas as well." And so it doesn't matter how perfect you make a world. Humans will find a way to be human. Humans will find a way to be human. Well said. Ayush said the effing gall. He's putting words in his mouth with a smug attitude. Shows no humility after being proven wrong. We elect government to solve the crimes and uplift the poor, not effing Walmart. Again, well said. And I can't think of a better note to end this show. Well said. Indie film. Good cops didn't want to be Nazis. The Nazi cops stayed. The good cops left. Whether you're talking about COVID or Nazi Germany, they left. They're like, I'm not doing that because I have principles. But unfortunately, too many people do not have principles. So, I mean, that's about half of the conversation that go on just like that for, another hour. I don't think we really need to go through all of that. I really just want to point out, like, guys, we have to keep our eyes on people who operate like this. It's not okay. And nobody's going to stop them unless it's us, because everybody else seems to agree with them. So, I mean, again, you could sit quietly and hope that this goes away, or you could stand up, you can come to shows like this, you can have conversations like this, you can take these conversations out in the world, you can share these videos to other people, you can do all of that stuff that will just have a little bit of an effect. But if everybody does their part, then we will win. But if you sit there and do nothing, we all will lose. All of us. So I want to thank you guys. Thank you so much. Big shout out to Unwanted Foe. And of course, the sponsors, the co-sponsors of the stream, Indie Film. Thank you. And of course, Frosty Guns. Thank you, guys. I very, 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 very much appreciate it. You guys cannot know how much it warms my heart when you guys are here. And thank you. This stuff is really important to me, and the fact that you guys are spending time with me, it means so much. And we're growing, guys. We're making moves. We are doing things. So please keep on coming back. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Share this with people who you think might be open to it. Even if they're not, then they just won't come. But I'm doing everything I can, and I'm just imploring you guys to just have my back. And if we can do that, I promise you, I have answers. I may not have the best answers in the world, but I have enough answers to get to the people who can tell me what answers are wrong and then get the right answers. I can do that. I will do that. I am willing to do that, but I cannot do it alone. So again, thank you to all of you. Even if you can't part with your money, then, I am absolutely trying to do this for a living, and it really, really does help. Every little cent helps. But even if just being here in the chat, being, running up that runtime, running up that chat rate, all of that stuff really, 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 really does help. So thank you again. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you. And as Melton My Media just dropped the link, we are headed right over to the after party for the in Discord, which is free. It is free to join. It's not going to stay free unless you join. So right now, I have a number in my head. When we get to a certain number of members, I'm cutting it off for everybody. And everybody who's in the Discord is going to be grandfathered in, and you're going to be in there forever for free. And everybody else is going to be clamoring to pay to hang out with us. So get in while you can. I promise you, I will never charge you for anything if you get in there before that number. So with that said, thank you again. Thank you. Morty right here is shivering in fear at what I don't know, but he appreciates all the treats, and I appreciate you guys even more. So thank you. I hope you enjoy this replay, gang. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Thank you. Oh my goodness. The last minute. He said, I gotta steal that sponsorship. I gotta steal that sponsorship spot. And let's give him a double for that. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Warms my heart, brother. But I know you guys don't like when I get all mushy, so I won't. But I will leave you with this. Thank you. You guys are everything. Without you guys, I am just a guy yelling at his computer. Yeah, indie film with the steel. I didn't say that. I said I wouldn't charge you for being in Discord. But I can't do anything without you guys. And the fact that you're here for me is awesome. So thank you. Once again, make sure you are subscribed, because I drop videos every single day, and we are live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. And sometimes whenever I feel like it, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and you will never miss an Indian Jesus party ever again. I just lost my train of thought. Ever again. Once again, this has been Morty. I have been your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, I am out of here. Peace.